Yes, hello. I am James Rowlands. Today it's the WNR 603. It's AEW double or nothing. I'm not alone. With a pleasure to be joined by the entire WNR team. Up first by my side for every WWE and AEW show is the fantastic Jaxie Scarlett. How's it going, Jax?
Hello, hello. Yes, all going well. Looking forward to yet another AEW pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? Because with AEW, it's a. I don't know. How are you feeling about AEW at this moment in time? Because I'm quite positive.
Yeah, I mean, I think that things have been like kind of on what I would say at this point in the build up towards Double or Nothing, like sort of like things are on the lookout for sort of creative wise within the division in AEW at this moment in time. I think that there's a lot of interest behind, some of the story building that they have actually put together for this pay-per-view. So I feel like there's been some great anticipation as to what could potentially come out of it, AEW at this moment.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, up next, though, is an NXT expert and New Japan demigod, and of course, AEW Stanhausen. It is Monty. How's it going, man?
Doing good, doing good. You don't have to ask me how I'm feeling about AEW. We on top of the world right now, and we can't wait to break that down. I also want to say I went to Disney World in Orlando on my vacation. I might be converted to a Disney dad. Me and the family definitely had a lot of fun. I went to Epcot, and they allow you to drink around the world. And I just wanted, I gotta bring this up to y'all. They not representing y'all well enough in the alcohol department. Like I drunk in all 12 countries they had to offer, and they had a bunch of hard cider, and I think I ended up getting like a beer from the London place, and it was good. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, y'all, if I ever come across, when I come across the pond, you guys are gonna have to give me some strong drinks because Mexico kicking y'all ass. Mexico has some very strong drinks. Anyway, I got very, very drunk in Orlando on vacation in Disney. Had a great time. That's it. That's enough. That's most of y'all my personal life y'all getting out of me. Yeah, y'all show me some strong drinks, my Londoners, please.
I just sat in silence after the last pod until the next one. That's what I've done the last couple of weeks, I suppose. a little bit different. Last but by no means least. So who's that girl there? I wonder what went wrong, so she had to roam the streets. She don't do major credit cards, I doubt she does receipts. It's all not quite legitimate. And what a scummy man. Just give him half a chance, I bet he'd rob you if he can. You can see it in his eyes, yeah, that he's got a driving bang amongst some other offences. And I've seen him with girls on the night, and he told Jaxie to put on a red light. They're all infected, but he'll be alright, cause he's a scumbag, don't you know? I said he's a scumbag, don't you know? Doom, boom, 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 boom. Anyway, enough about Jackson and Monty. It's Gina, and I bet you look good on the dance floor.
Always and the Dancing Queen. But just to note, I do not know the songs that you sing every week, but I appreciate the details every time.
Oh, you could tell that band was from Sheffield. I know you could from that, like,
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
yeah,
100%.
yeah. Yeah, because if it's Manchester, it'd be like Manfred Knobhead. Do you know what I mean? So that's my Mancunian. So, we love the people in Manchester. But Gina, you with us for another AEW show. We're going to get to it, but are you excited?
Yeah, there have been some great matches lined up for this next premium pay-per-view event, sorry, with AEW. So I'm looking forward to reviewing it and seeing how others feel about it.
Yeah, they call it PLE with all these AEW Stanhausens, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, anyway, we're going to get to when we last left it. Darby Allin had won the AEW World Title off MJF in Dynamite Spring Breakthrough. So we're going to catch up with Dynamite and Collision. So Collision April 16th for Spring Breakthrough Part 2. Cole started the show with sporting a shiner to say the least. He says Cope and Christian will not give up. Cope started the show, sorry, I don't know who Cole is. The Young Bucks saved him from an FTR beatdown. The Bucks then had a match against the Rascals, after which they had won. Finn and Connor attacked Bucks and Rascals after. The Conglomeration beat the Twist. Mox beat Nick Wayne. Pac beat Leo Rush. And in the main event, Tekla defended their AEW women's title against Alex Windsor. And Jaxie, I mean, like I said, Collision, they just throw a lot of shit at the walls, but mostly it is quite entertaining. It's always nice to see Tekla in the main event defending her championship, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially recently, I would have to like say that Collision has gotten better in terms of like interest and booking. So I have to give it to them there that they are trying to kind of make Collision a bit more of an interest in the lure and a pool for like, those dominant sort of just purely Dynamite fans. And yeah, like it's always good to see sort of Thakla, representing and taking a main event spot. It'll be nice on Dynamite at some point, but certainly wasn't like an awful match or anything like that. It did what it needed to do and felt like it should be a main event type.
Yeah, without doubt. Dynamite April 22nd. Start with a video recapping how Darby Allin defeated MJF to become the world champion. MJF came marching to the ring instead. Former champion told the truck to cut his music and was clearly in a bad mood. He called last week the Seattle screw job. He called out Darby and said he needed to return his world title immediately. Instead of the new champion, we got Kevin Knight instead. They showed insults for a few minutes before Knight challenged him to a match. MJF said he could do it if Knight put his belt on the line, which the Jet accepted. Just when it looked like the contest would start, MJF rolled out the ring and said it would happen next week instead. Well, that's a waste of breath. Brody King beat Leo Rush. He wants Darby and that AEW Championship. Cope wants FTR and will retire teaming with Christian for it. So, Monty, we wondered what they'd have to put on the line. So it's Cope and Christian not retiring, but retiring as a tag team. So that's the stakes at play, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense. I guess you had, like you said, you had to find a way to make the rematch much bigger if you weren't going to give it to Adam and Christian, in Canada. Like you said, what could they possibly do? So I guess that makes sense to make this match even bigger than the just original grudge or revenge match. So I like the stakes. It may add something to it. And I also thought it was it wasn't. I think if you, like you said, if they would have went the route of Cope and Christian has to retire, then I think that gives the finish away. But flirting with the element that they would never team up again wouldn't necessarily be out of the realm of possibility, because you can make they don't have to win the titles. And I know we all want them to win the titles in AEW, but they could have stopped teaming as a team. They hadn't won the titles in forever as a team anyway, or you know what I mean. So it wouldn't have been like it was such a reason. It was still a reasonable stipulation that to me, although I think I figured where we were going, it didn't automatically give the finish of the big match away either. It's like you could reasonably say, what if Tony Swerve does and FTR retires them as a team? That, I mean, again, that was a plausible ending to this. So I like that element of it, because it added stakes, but it didn't give the finish of the match away.
Yeah, without a doubt. Up next was Mina versus Shida. Shida ended up scoring the win thanks to a little accidental help from Chris Statlander at ringside. Mark Davis versus Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay continues to set his injured neck, looking like the underdog. In fact, it led to the match ending by order of the doctor at ringside, who determined Ospreay could no longer continue. Davis pulled him back in the ring, but surprisingly, the Death Rider showed up and stopped him. Gina, there's a couple of things I want to point out here. First off, Mark Davis, even if it's by stoppage, getting a win over Ospreay, I think, is huge. I don't really like them talking about the injury too much, because again, it's just like too realistic. And also, I'll give you another thing to talk about. How cool were the Death Riders just showing up? I think it's the best they've looked in a while.
Yeah, no, definitely. The Mark Davis win was more of a shock to me. I didn't really see that happening. So yeah, that was interesting. But I want to just jump straight to the Death Riders. They look so damn cool coming out and being that support unit for Will. And it's really difficult because it is them really just playing the fine line of, are the Death Riders face? Are they heel? Are they kind of like anti-villains in a way? It just gets you thinking about the Death Riders and what's going through their head, what's going through Will Ospreay's head, and working with the Death Riders, because we thought they were heels, but now they're kind of faces. So yeah, it just asks loads of questions, but in a good way. It makes you more intrigued, makes you want to see them every week on every show, and that's kind of what we're getting, which is great. So yeah, I think it's working really well.
Yeah, without a doubt. Can I say whoever's in charge of my AEW, can we stop coming late back from the commercials, because we are missing? It might only be 30-second chance, but I'm a completist. Come on. Samoa Joe returned for his first match in months when he beat a local talent named Cody Chun. Hook welcomed him back, and in the main event, Darby came out to give his first promo as champion, and then he had his first title defense against Tommaso Ciampa. It didn't take long for MJF to interrupt. Alan told him to go away before Ciampa made his entrance. As for the match, Ciampa ended up wearing a crimson mask, but it never slowed him down. He did come close to winning several times, but Darby was not about to lose it just a week later. Ciampa applied the sharpshoot, but Alan reversed it, hit the Scorpion Deathlock for the victory, and Ciampa and Darby shook hands. Brody then came out and he wants next, but Jaxie, Ciampa and Darby wasn't. I didn't think, when you think about it, I didn't think it was going to be a match of the year, but this was awesome.
Yeah, this match kind of reminded me again what a waste WWE had with Ciampa. It just kind of like reminds me of like just kind of letting two equally crazy individuals loose into a ring and what they can do. So this was just highly entertaining and just kind of reinvigorated or reminded, those what Ciampa can really do in the ring when, against the right people and given the time.
Yeah, it's really, really good stuff. Ciampa hasn't put a foot wrong, I don't think, in AEW at this moment in time. Collision April 25th. FTR wanted a night quit match with Cope and Christian. Orange Cassidy, Strong, and O'Reilly defended their trios title versus Andrade, Lance Archer, and Het Cesaro. Mox gave Will the chance to smash him. The Dogs with the Death Riders beat the Bucks and the Rascals. Tekla Sky Blue beat Persephone and Alex Windsor. And the Hurt Syndicate couldn't help Jericho in the main event. In six-man action, Gates of Agony won with Ricochet pinning Jericho again with the Rico Salt. So that's the story between Jericho and Ricochet. Monty continued over. Jericho just can't get the win at this moment in time.
Yeah, I mean, I love them subverting everybody's expectations. Hell, even like traditional norm, you would expect the babyface or Jericho in this situation to be able to finally get something over on them with a little bit of help, but it don't go that way. And I just love that they're booking Ricochet in this and the demand as like a true thorn in the side of Chris Jericho, and not letting Chris Jericho just run through him. And I think this is although it's shocking, and maybe some people may by now expect Jericho to get some type of legitimate payback. I thought this was really, really. I thought this not only was a good match, but I think that again, this is very comforting to see them realizing no matter where you stand on Jericho. I think we all know at this point where Jericho is as far as in his career, and like at the end of the day, he is one of the. I think isn't he the original AEW World Champion? So either way it go, he's like one of the forefathers of AEW in this sense. He can all putting over Ricochet and giving him a victory, like beating Jericho, still means something, especially within the confines of kayfabe in AEW. So I do believe this is still a great showcase of making Ricochet and the Demand look good. But at the same time, it was leading to a bigger thing that we will get to towards the pay per view also, which is also perfectly fine too. But yeah, I thought again, it did its job, even if it's not what you kind of expect, because by now we're used to like 50-50 booking.
Yeah, without a doubt. Dynamite, April 29th. Kevin Knight versus MJF for the TNT Championship. MJF tried to cheat with his diamond ring, but Knight beat him to the punch with a low blow and a roll up to get the win. MJF continues assault after the bell, but Darby lowered from the rafters like Sting and hit him with a scorpion death drop. Again, Gene, I don't want to keep coming to you going, how cool was this? But how cool was Darby coming down? And also, again, another shock with, I didn't think MJF would win the title, but Knight got the victory.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of thought MJF was going to get it, so it was a bit of a shock to see that Knight got the win, because I did assume that it was going to go MJF's way, but it was a great match. That is something that you should go and watch. I thought it showcased Kevin Knight well, and it was entertaining because MJF is always entertaining.
Yeah, without doubt. The Brawling Birds squashed Emily J and Jordan Blade. Kazuchika Okada faced Ace Austin with the International Championship. After hitting the Tombstone, Okada finished Austin off with his Rainmaker. Will Ospreay had a video with the Death Riders. He appears to have taken them up on their offer to turn into a more dangerous competitor. And then for the first time on Dynamite, Adam Copeland and Christian Cage teamed up to beat Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta. And then we had Divine Dominion versus Shida and Statlander for the Women's Tag Team Championships. The fight went back and forth, but much like the international title belt, the outcome felt set in stone for the bell rung. Cross and Bane retained the titles by pinning Shida. Jackson, what are your thoughts on the Women's Tag Team Championships at this moment in time, or even the division in general? Because the Divine Dominion, as we're going to see leading up to Double or Nothing, are kind of just squashing people right now.
I mean, they're doing their job. That's what I'll say about Divine Dominion. Like in terms of like what they preach and decimating everyone. But here's where things start to stack a little bit for AEW for me. They still haven't really gotten the women's division quite down in the same sort of way that they've got like both the singles and tag division for the men. Um, and it's not that they don't have the people, but I think that they just like they're not great with the promotion of the women's tag team division. If I'm truly honest, you have a plethora of strong original based tag team women, and just kind of no one right now really seems to seems to be getting the job done or being able to like be a feasible threat to Divine Dominion. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one because like I'm all up for all of these chances that loads of different random singles women being meshed into tag teams have been getting against Divine Dominion, but we need to start building some really solid foundations for specific like women's tag teams because I mean even along the way for me I've been getting confused as to who's meant to be a singles wrestler and who's meant to be part of a tag team within the women's division too. So it's kind of like I feel like AEW could do better with cleaning up the tag division, as well as the singles division, and where it comes from creatively, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, they haven't got stars. It's not like they haven't got the teams, you know.
Yeah,
So again, it's
exactly.
just
It's been poor promotion at the moment, in my opinion.
Anyway, on with Dynamite. Roosh won a squash. Darby Allin versus Brody King was the main event. And after a few big spots outside the ring, Darby managed to retain his title basically clean over Brody, and they showed respect. But again, anytime these two face off, it's always a good matchup. Collision made second. Rascals and Top Flight lost to the Death Riders and the Dog. This match just didn't stop. Jack Perry defended his national title against Mascara Dorado. The Conglomeration beat Johnny TV and MXM. Where the fuck have they been? Anna Jay returned to action but lost to TBS champ Willow. Daniel Garcia and Willie Ute lost to Juice and Ace Austin. And Austin Gunn returned. No, hang on. Wait, it was Colton. Anyway, guns up, everybody. And Wheeler had a Crimson Mask in that matchup. Sky Blue won a squash. And then Kevin Knight beat Hook to retain his TNT title in the main event. Dynamite made 3 hours. Yay! But the show opened with Tony Schiavone in the ring, who said that before the show began, All Elite Wrestling wanted to pay tribute to Ted Turner after the news broke on his death on Wednesday. Schiavone talked about working under Turner during his time in WCW, saying Turner changed the way wrestling worked. He loved the business and the fans. This brought out Sting to share his thoughts and memories about the late TNT and TBS founder and the icon called Turner, a billionaire who loved pro wrestling. He said there'd be no Sting without Turner for a hype in Darby Allin's title match late in the show. Now, did Tony Khan was similar to Turner in his love of the business. And again, Monty, this was, I don't think we have spoken about it, but Ted Turner, you know, for especially older fans like me, he was the Tony Khan kind of his day. And it's sad to hear of his, you know, death. And I think that's quite a nice tribute they did to start off on AEW.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. It was cool to hear, like you said, from Sting, who was employed by Tony, I mean, by Ted for a long time, and again to see Tony also talk about it, who's also in that system, basically for as long as I've known Tony Schiavone. So it's great to get their perspectives of him, and just for me personally, like you said, as a fan, and his impact on wrestling. I mean, he was always the alternative to like what they were doing in New York or in WWF or in WWF. Or like what I think, you know what I mean? WW, I don't know. Wasn't it wide, worldwide or whatever? Yeah, either way it goes.
Yeah.
Vince and his daddy. You get what I'm trying to say. He was always the alternative to that wrestling. So, so when he was over the NWA, I'm from Southern America, so WCW, NWA wrestling, that's my territory. Everything Ted did, he was based in Georgia. So a lot of us on our television screen growing up over here in Southern America, we got a lot of his wrestling. As a matter of fact, some of my first wrestling I ever seen that was on live television before I would go back and but before and like I was like actually conscientious of what I was watching later was like Booker T in a WCW match. I'll never forget it. I watched Booker T and his brother Stevie Ray in a tag team match. I don't forgot who they were fighting now because I was like 3 years old. But still, my point is that was on my television screen all the time. A lot of the people that my grandfather would reference he would reference the Four Horsemen and the Dusty Road. That's from that era of television that Ted Turner, put on television screens. You know what I mean? So yeah, he was always like you said, he loved the business. He's a pioneer, like you said, definitely like his eras. Tony Khan, if you want to call it that. I think Tony Khan has done a lot to kind of make AEW a continuation of that. He's mentioned that from the beginning that's kind of like what AEW, and that's the reason why it's on TBS over here in America. Similar, which is a platform that Ted. I don't know if the family. I'm assuming they still own TBS and TNT, but I don't know how the mergers and all that stuff work. Things change, but I assume that he still does. But he did a lot, and also for me, another thing Ted Turner did for me personally over here in America is I think he started Cartoon Network. And that's why I used to watch a lot of Dexter's Laboratory and et cetera, growing up. So again, he did a lot of indirect. I don't know, indirectly he impacted my life a lot, whether I knew it or not at the time, outside of wrestling and in wrestling. So yeah, it was definitely a big loss to kind of see somebody like him pass away. But it was really cool again, like I mentioned, to get the perspectives of guys like a Sting, guys like Tony, to kind of share some words, share their viewpoint, and say some kind words about him. So and I hate to say this because we're celebrating Ted, but I get unfortunately that maniac Vince was seen to be right because he did maintain that he's gonna outlive Ted. So I hate that, but he did. But there we go. Rest in peace, Ted Turner.
We had Mox
Somehow.
versus yeah, somehow. Moving on quickly, we had Moxley versus Juice. Mox scored the win with his bulldog choke, but Juice put up a good fight. Orange Cassidy versus Dax Harwood. Cassidy ended up getting a clean win with a pinning combination, but as soon as it was all over, all hell broke loose. And then they agreed to have a match, but Ricochet said he wanted it to be Stadium Stampede, and he doubted Jericho could find 4 people to have his back. The Hurt Syndicate ran to the ring to make the save and end the segment. Carter beat Brian Keith. Hardy Cameron and Mina Shirakawa versus Chris Statlander and Shida. And Shida got the win for a team with a Falcon Arrow to Cameron. But Gina, I don't know if you saw this, but most people were upset when they saw Harley in a bra backstage. Then there was like this kind of upheaval, like it probably from blokes who'd never seen women in bras before, And and again, her point was it's probably more revealing what she wears in the ring.
I didn't know about that, and you just saying this to me, I just had a big question mark on my face because most of the women wear bras as their wrestling attire.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
I guess, yeah.
like, there's too many women to even know who wear bras for their wrestling attire, but one that always stands out to me is Sasha Banks, very first Royal Rumble, Women's Royal Rumble, and she wore the Wonder Woman, I think it was a Wonder Woman set, and it was just, a bra and a set of shorts. How is that any different to what Harley wore backstage? I don't know what the uproar is, but men or people who are complaining, you just need to shut the fuck up, mind your own business, or watch something else because most of the women are dressed like that.
Yeah, I just didn't understand it. Swerve is hunting power.
Men
And
are
the main...
complaining about boobs. Okay,
yeah. Again, it might be women complaining, but they're not watching.
Exactly. I was going to say, who the hell is complaining about them anyway? It's not like
and
they
even if
they're
it is a
great.
woman, like this got to be new watchers because, like, I agree. It's like, come on, man. Like, what are you talking
It's got
about?
to
But
be
all right, whatever.
Karens. Yeah, it's got to be
Yeah,
Karens
parents or
complaining.
something. Yeah.
Well, the main event of Dynamite portion of the show saw Darby defend the world title against Kevin Knight. Even though it was an exciting bout, we knew what was going to happen. Allen got the win with 2 coffin drops. MJF came out and demanded a rematch, and Darby said he needed MJF to put something on the line too. Darby said he needed to put his hair on the line. MJF stored off, but Okada came out to repeat his desire for a title bout. Darby accepted his challenge, but of course that didn't happen because Okada kind of, I think, had to go back to Japan and miss it. So, I mean, Jackson, it's really not been Okada's year. I know we've got this big match with Takeshita coming up, but do you know what I mean? That build was about 4 months ago, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know whether or not Okada is just enjoying coasting, like sort of on the money he is and doing what he can. But it was a little bit disappointing to not get those two 1-on-1 because I think that would have been a great match for the title.
Yeah, it is a shame. Speedball beat AR Fox. Doctors told that Will, whatever training he's doing is working. What are the chances of that? Eh? Jamie Hayter beat Sky Blue. Roosh won a squash. And the week's main event was the 10-man tag team match. Nick and Matt Jackson team with Ace Austin, Colton and Austin Gunn to take on Clark Connors, David Finney, Willie Utah, Daniel Garcia and Claudia Castagnoli. Ace ended up pinning Utah to get the win for his team. And the Bucks and the Bang Bang Gang celebrated to wrap up 3 hours of my life I probably never get back again. But on the positive side, Collision May 9th, Fairway to Hell. Sometimes I really like AEW. I mean, this was a great, quirky setting that should be tried more to kind of be different from the norm. You know, I mean, Monty, I don't know what you thought about this, but I really liked the setup, you know, and some of the shots, as we're going to talk about the main event, of going into the bunkers and stuff like that, were, I think, perfect. You know, maybe I just needed something different.
No, I mean it's like you said. It's not even just that it's different. It's just they decided to be for especially for the main matches. They decided to be very creative. You know, I thought Mark Davis and Jack Perry was creative with certain things they did, and like you mentioned, the main event especially was just since it was no count out, they decided to just be just be not only be great wrestlers but do something creative with the set. And again, I'm with you. I think this is definitely something that they should probably revisit. I'm sure they probably will because from what I hear, this did really, really well for them. But yeah, man, I mean, like you said, I don't know, we're craving something different. It's just like you get great wrestling and you change the setting up and you allow the wrestlers to be creative with the wrestling and you get magic like this sometimes. And I think this is just like you said, something that worked out for them. And another reason why I think AEW is just on top of their game right now, man. They're being creative, they're trying things, and even if they didn't hit this out the park, I think as fans, like you said, just looking at the set and just looking at how cool everything was shot, it's like, oh no, this is pretty cool. Like even if the matches didn't end up being as great as they were, so I just think that, like you said, at the end of the day, they're doing something different. Like they're continuing to distinguish themselves. I think now at this point, we're getting to the point now where AEW don't feel like. I know at times I remember watching Impact. Impact became a WWE. Everybody just know that's just WWE liked, and even no matter who the talent is, AEW would get that claim sometimes. But I think at this point of where they are and stuff like this is really where the AEW feels like its own complete universe to itself that has nothing. It's wrestling like WWE, but it has nothing to do with that. Just generic style of wrestling. Like this is just completely creative and unique to AEW.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, he's got Jack Perry putting his AEW national title against Mark Davis. I was surprised AEW booked a rematch so soon after Dynasty, but we did have a different result. Thanks to Ricochet with a golf club, Mark Davis is your new national champion. Gina, who's Mark Davis had a very good month. Do you know what I mean? Beating Willis Ray, becoming champion. I mean, he's well, I don't know what he's doing, but he's doing it right.
Mark Davis got Employee of the Month, clearly. Um, yeah, he's been having a great month. I'm not mad at it because it's nice to see because it's refreshing and it's not the same people winning the same matches and things like that. So this is what you want in wrestling. You want wrestling to throw you off and shock you with match outcomes, And Mark Davis has done that twice now. So yeah, I've enjoyed it for him.
Has been really good. Jack Perry's bringing the Elite to fight the Demand in Stadium Stampede. Rufy Slay and Rachel Lay, who sound like drag queens, got squashed by the Divine Dominion. Speedball won on a squash, and in the main event, Darby Allin defended his AEW title against Pac. This match does need to be seen to believe. Pac landing in a bunker with a backflip. I don't care what the traditionalists say. That was such a beautiful shot. They fall all over the green and into the ring. The Death Riders set up a table. Pac tombstone Darby on the stairs, and then Darby took a bump off the balcony through the tables. I mean, Jackson, at that point, I'm going, fuck me, he's dead. But somehow, after a low blow belt shot, Darby retained. How the fuck?
Honestly, to be honest, first of all, you're right. The arena itself just looked incredible for them to just fight across, and it was just highly entertaining to watch. Pac just gave it his all, and I think that he and Darby just worked so well together. So they just created magic, and you were just invested in seeing what the outcome was. How Darby retained. I don't know, because the bumps that he took from Pac was just like insane. Like you said, I thought he was dead at certain points. I'm surprised he still lives.
Yeah, without a doubt. May 13th, Dynamite Rene Paquette approached MJF backstage to ask him about title versus hair stipulation against Darby Allin, but he didn't say a word. He walked past a handful of different bald men and looked despondent. And again, Monty, after coming off like the crazy golf stuff, to have this segment, which was I just found hilarious, and it's very simple, just having a lot of bald people there, but it told a story again, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Like again, that's the benefit of where AEW is right now. Like I said, they're hitting it out the park with the matches. They're being creative. They're still finding a way to connect the next story beat. And again, I think at the end of the day, that's all we can ask for. Like again, they got AEW get criticized all the time still from people who I obviously don't watch about their lack of storytelling. But like you said, everything makes sense if you get a chance to catch all of it. And I just think, again, they've been doing a great job of even slowing it down for the people who don't even really want to, who don't want to pay attention. I think you have to really not be paying attention to not see how good they're getting at telling these stories, man. Like I said, this is again. Just great stuff all around, man, from AW and from the entire collision in leading into the dynamite,
Yeah, without a doubt. And we went live in the arena. Tommaso Ciampa was out for the Hill team in a 10-man tag team match. He was joined by Cash Wheeler, Dax Harbour, Clark Connors, and David Finlay. Orange Cassidy, Nick and Matt Jackson, Christian Cage, and Copeland made up the babyface team. And Copeland got the win for his team by pinning collars. And Cope had matching colours with the Bucks as well, which was cool. Brian Cage ended up being the opponent for Kevin Knight's TNT Championship Open Challenge, which started immediately after Speedball's squash match. The Machine's physique looked more defined than ever, and he used his power to start throwing Knight around, but the Jet picked up the win to retain his title. Gina, did you know this was Brian Cage's first match in AEW for 18 months? 18.
I only knew that at the start of the match because that's what the announcers or the commentators were saying. But yeah, I kind of, sorry, Brian Cage, but I kind of had forgotten about you. So the fact that like when you did come back and they said you were off that long, I was like, really? So
Yeah.
I feel bad, but it was still nice to see him back.
Yeah, and again, he's just massive. Do you think he's too big? I mean, I don't want to go into, obviously we've got other stuff to talk about, but you know what I mean? It's like Rob
Me
Terry
and Dax has spoken about Brian Cage's body, and again, there is no body shaming. Everyone has different tastes in bodies. He's definitely got a great physique. It's a bit much for me.
I
It's a
think
bit
it's
much.
like, his previous experience as a bodybuilder is just like I've never found those looks attractive in my opinion. So it could be biased in that sense, but that's where he originated from. So you could just tell, you could just see it, and I just find that his body is an odd form within a wrestling capacity. That's what I think it is.
Yeah. The demand of Mark Davis go with promo backstage to hype Stadium Stampede. They revealed Andrade and the Dogs have joined their team. What a pick in Andrade, just in the background at the moment. The men's Owen Cup brackets were revealed. Claudio takes on Brody King. Bandido versus Swerve at Double or Nothing. Jack Perry faces Mark Davis. And Will Ospreay versus Samoa Joe for Double or Nothing. And speaking of Will, Ospreay was looking to put his Death Riders training to good use in his match against Ace Austin. He actually won with an armbar instead of his usual hidden blade. Ospreay shook his hand to show some respect. Samoa Joe, the Ops, came out to taunt him ahead of their upcoming match. And Bowens and Shibata walked to the ring to attack him, but all the Death Riders came out to back Ospreay up. Again, Jaxie, just another great segment, ending with the Death Riders, the story of
This
kind
looks
of
so
Will
cool.
Ospreay. Yeah.
Yeah, it just looks so cool. Like nothing. I think sometimes this sort of standoff works as well. You don't always have to end something in a massive all-out brawl. So just even having like the Death Riders kind of come out, not only to support Will, but just to also they look like animals stalking their prey, and they just back the fuck off. I mean,
Yeah.
I would do the same in that sense. But it just looked like such a cool moment, and like I love this story building that they're telling, not only with Will, sort of like the ups and downs that he's going through, but also just the story that they're like building continuously with the Death Riders. It makes for more intriguing content. This is not something we necessarily see in terms of like not really sure whether or not to take the Death Riders as heels or faces. As you mentioned, the week prior they were part of like the heel side of a 10-man tag. So it's one of those ones where they're really intriguing to watch because you kind of don't know what decision they're going to make next. You don't know whose side they're on. They're just on the side of whoever they decide they deem worthy. I like that.
And also, we're getting to Mojo versus Will Ospreay. Do you know what I mean? So again,
I mean, again, that is just music to any wrestling fan's ears. So anyone hearing that was one of the brackets for the Owen Hart tournament probably was having like an inner orgasm just at the thought of or caliber of that match.
Yeah, without doubt. Talking about the Owen, the women's Owen brackets were revealed. Willow versus Windsor, Double or Nothing. Persephone versus Hazuki. Mina versus Athena. And Sky Blue versus Sari. I mean, Monty, it's interesting because, again, I looked at this and I thought, haven't they got more talent they could use, or are they going a different way this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's either that or that, like you said, it's a different way, trying to highlight some different ladies. We also got to, take into account that, like, you got the Mercedes, you got Tony Storms, who's away from the ring, Mercedes away from the ring right now. But I do think because they spent so much time in Tony Storm land, no offense to Tony, I think obviously it was great. We did have a lot of women who were kind of either side characters in there or underdeveloped. And you also got some, but I also agree though, you got some other ladies, other names who we see every now and then, just not, mentioned here who you would expect, like Queen Aminata and just other talents, that we see pop in every now and then and just go away. Unfortunately, kind of like in the tag division, we just kind of have a thing in the women's division where it feels like, I'm not saying it is this way, but it feels like you have like a good number, like 6 to 8 women who we know are going to be on television consistently week to week. And then everyone else kind of pops in. And, hopefully we can kind of fix that. But to be fair, we have more of a selection of men who get featured, but it's kind of a similar thing with the dudes sometimes too. We talk about it all the time how people just pop up and go away. So yeah, but it's amazing, like you mentioned. No Thunder Rosa. There's like so many people who we know pop in and have a match every now and then, and still allegedly is on the roster, but you know they're not featured or just are having matches regularly. It's confusing.
Yeah, no, it is a bit weird. There's got to be some, not negativity, but like I said, I can't be positive all the time with AEW. It's Tekla, Sky Blue,
No,
Julie
but
Hart.
just to actually add real quick though, James, like I do think you're right in some aspects as well. I mean, when you look at the level of talent that is being featured within the males side of the Owen Hart tournament, that there, I think it's not to say none of these women deserve a chance in the tournament, but I was just thinking, you've got all of these women, especially the ones that you're not using within the tag division, that weren't necessarily like starting off as tag persons not involved. You've also got like just a array of people that you could have put in, but you didn't. Like, for example, please do correct me if I'm wrong. Where's Thunder Rosa?
Yeah,
Why is she not?
I wasn't sure if she was injured or not, but I'm pretty sure
But then
she's
what about
not.
What about Riho? What about Nyla Rose even?
Mm-hmm.
Like
I agree with you. I agree with you.
I just feel like there are so many other women, like, and I know that you've even got Ty J, right? Who who's returned like not frequently at the moment, but like they're like a kind of confirmed tag team, but they were both individuals as well. Neither of them could have been given a shot in the tournament. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, if you want to, Harley Cameron, she couldn't have been in the tournament. Like, there's just all these women that you could just do so much with, and you could have just added them. So I was a little bit disappointed in how I felt in terms of seeing some of the matchups for the men's division and getting excited at seeing these two like sort of clash and not feeling like equal amount of thought went into the choice for the women's.
Yeah. No, like I said, I'm glad I'm not alone with that. Tekla, Sky Blue, Julie Hart were out first for a trios bout against Shida, Hayter, and Windsor. Fortunately, Tekla caused a DQ by hitting Hayter with a title, so we didn't get a clean ending. Shida chose not to help Hayter, but Willow Nightingale, Thunder Rosa, and Mina did. Darby Allin continues weekly title defenses in the main event by putting the world title on the line against Takeshita. Like I said, Okada couldn't make it, so Takeshita got the nod when Callis tried to interfere. Takeshita waved him off. He said he wanted to win on his own. We had some close 2 counts, but Allin hit a pair of coffin drops for the pin and a win to end a great match. And again, Gina, it's Darby Allin is beating people I didn't think maybe would get beaten as clean as they had. Again, Takeshita, who's building up to like his biggest match of his career against Okada, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, whatever you feel about Darby Allin, you can't say that he's not a defending champion, and not only that, but he's having great matches and facing all kinds of different opponents week after week, and each match just seems to be just as great as the other, so you got to you got to give it to him. He's given us great matches that a fighting champ should be like.
Yeah, without a doubt. The show ended with MJF coming out, signing his hair versus total contract at Double or Nothing. I've talked some trash on the dotted line. He attacked Darby, but Kevin Knight saved Allin from a tombstone from the middle rope. Collision May 16th. Mark Briscoe returned to action to team Orange Cassidy and Kyle O'Reilly, who beat Shane Taylor Promotions. Mark brawled with Ciampa later on. Willow beat Red Velvet. The Ops beat the Swirl. Divine Dominion won another 5-minute challenge. The Dogs and Mark Davis beat the Rascals. And in the main event, Darby defended the AEW title against Sammy. Yes, I'm still employed Guevara. Which, again, I mean, Jack Sammy gets a title shot because Darby's a fighting champion, so to speak. But there was one moment where he did pass out when he had the Scorpion Deathlock on. And people wondered, would that have any long-term effects maybe as well?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not too sure. Hopefully not. But at the same time, I really was very much like you. I was like, oh, have you been promoted back up to AEW from from Ring of Honor? It was just a bit random to see Sammy be given a shot. And I know, like, the commentators made a big deal about the fact that he's an OG from AEW, but that also added to like the hysterics that it was Sammy Guevara, because it's like, yeah, and he hasn't been seen on AEW for how long? So are any of us really supposed to believe he had that much of a chance?
Yeah, no, I don't even know if he did. But again, like I said, I'm glad he's still
He's a pillar, guys.
Maybe once upon a time, but I think that's all dead and buried now.
May 20th, we've got a 3-hour Dynamite. Yay! The Bucks of Jericho versus Ricochet, Mark Davis, and Andrade. The Dog showed up to interfere, which allowed El Idolo to steal the win by pinning Matt Jackson. And when the assault continued after the bell, Jack Perry showed up and hit Toa Leona with a bag of onions. What was crazy, though, and again, I do love this in wrestling, Monty, I didn't know this, but this was the first time Jericho and Andrade had been in the ring together, which is crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, it is. It makes sense though. They kind of always kind of existed in two different. It's always kind of been something either in different companies at the time, or Jericho's away from WWE while Andrade's on the, on the upcoming, and then it's just again, it's one of those things. The two guys, two veterans that you would think have crossed paths in some way, shape, or form, but no, they hadn't, and it makes sense. But yeah, it's always kind of cool when you get those type of interactions. So yeah, that is a nice little nugget, and again, it was also kind of cool to see. I'm not sure. I don't know if this is the first time, but I'm not. It's cool to see him team with the Young Bucks again. Just like when a guy like Jericho, who's been in the ring in so many different generations, watching him mix it up with all of these people, whether he's teaming with them or against them, is still kind of cool from a wrestling fan perspective.
Yeah, without a doubt. Tommaso Ciampa versus Mark Briscoe. Both guys were bleeding all over the ring before all said was done. Briscoe put Ciampa through a table with Jay Driller before hitting his own finisher for the win. And like we said earlier, Ciampa hasn't had a bad match in AEW. Bandido and Swerve brawled. And then we got some horrible news. Willow not only had to withdraw from the Owen, but also had to relinquish the TBS Championship. And Gina, this just hit me like a fish across the face,
Yeah, it's just so wounding, especially whenever you hear about an injury, you obviously hope that wrestler is okay and that they can have a speedy recovery. But with the peak of that Willow's in right now of her career, this is just so infuriating to hear, not just for us fans, but for her as a wrestler too. It's sad to hear, but I think it still keeps her strong in terms of she didn't lose the belt herself. She didn't lose any of the Owen Hart Cup matches yet, because she didn't get to go into it. So I don't think it's gonna hurt her going away for a bit. Not only that, but Willow is such a big personality that I think people will miss her. So when she does come back, the pop will be amazing.
Yeah, I think without a doubt. Yeah, it's a shame for Willow, but hopefully, like I said, we wish she has a full recovery. John Moxley and Kyle O'Reilly went to a time limit draw, and the rematch was made for Double or Nothing. We got a huge 8-women tag team match with Athena, Judy Hart, Sky Blue, and Tekla taking on Rosa, Mina, Alex Windsor, and Hayter, with Tekla securing the win for a team by pinning Rosa after she was misted by Hart. MJF joined the commentary to watch Bailey challenge Darby for the men's world title. Speedball me ended up tapping out to the Scorpion Deathlock. Kevin Knight grabbed the mic and tried to give Bailey a pep talk. Come on, mate. He told Darby he would be coming for the title again after Double or Nothing. We then had Will Ospreay versus Shibata, and Ospreay couldn't make him tap out, but he did get the win with the hidden blade. Smojo came out to confront him about their upcoming bout at Double or Nothing. Roosh won a squash, and so did Divine Dominion. And in the main event, a collision portion of the show saw Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong take on Dax and Cash for the men's tag team titles, and FTR retained. So that's it. We're up to date, basically. But Jackson, what I liked about what AEW did, and I hope they do this in future, because it always annoyed me, especially when we used to go All In, is having a collision on a Saturday and then I'm not watching it. Do you know what I mean? I'm busy, and then all of a sudden I might have missed that for predictions, whatever it is. If you have it all on Wednesday, gets it out of the way, and we're clear for the weekend, then, aren't we?
Yeah, I really actually prefer the setup that they've started to do now with Collision. Like but if it's like the weekend of the pay-per-view, then kind of merging the dynamics. I think it works, and I think it doesn't need to be like that each week. But when there's a pay-per-view, I think this is better, as you said. Especially for us in the UK, sometimes we're not even able to catch up with that collision before the pay-per-view starts. So it's actually a bit nicer to feel that we're completely up to date before starting a pay-per-view.
Yeah, without a doubt. So let's get to the pay-per-view then. May 24th, Double or Nothing, Queens, New York. We got the buy-in to begin with. And I can't believe this is the 8th annual Double or Nothing. It shows how old I am becoming now as well. Renee Paquette welcomes Mick Foley. And I haven't got a problem with Mick Foley making a buck here in AEW. He was asked what brought him to AEW. He actually didn't say Donald Trump. We've got more Mick Foley in a little bit. But again, Monty, it's good to see him, and I don't believe this talk of, finally home or to the dark side or, whatever else. But good for Mick.
Mick is genuinely one of the wrestlers who I put on a pedestal that not many of the rest that I would say genuinely seems like a good soul, a good person. So, Meek can do no wrong in my eyes. I don't understand why. And then even if you do want to consider this right or wrong, you probably need to get uninvested into whatever you got going on. Because, like you said, he just got just another legendary wrestler gets a job. And I told you, whether it was JR, whether it's been Taz, whether it's been I know Paul White. I'm not sure what even Paul White done, but even Mark Henry and everybody else who kind of have come here to AEW, whether
Let's
it's
not
just for
forget
a
Ric
check.
Flair too.
Right, Ric Flair, exactly. Like he's
Yeah,
all Tony has always provided some type of work and business for the legends who make wrestling what it is. Tony's a fan like us. Tony love these people like we do for the most part. So, again, so I'm not saying again, I would love to see. I think it is unique because his run and Darby's run does have storyline. When Mick won the championship, same way kind of like you can compare it to what Darby's doing now. So I do love, and I think they're gonna get into that on this show on this buy-in. So yeah, so it's like I thought it made sense too. It's not like it's something that don't make sense right now. Now could Mick Foley be just another person that we find out was employed by AEW, but we don't know what the hell he's doing? what he's actually doing in a few months, sure, he could just be collecting the check. But hey, if it's anybody can just collect the check, let it be Mick. But if he's joining commentary, he's gonna be like on that round table with Nigel, Brian Danielson, or whatever, and all of that. I can't be mad at that either. I mean, because again, Mick has always been great and quick witted on the mic or in promo. He's always been a great promo, and I think he'd be good on commentary if he want to do that. Whatever he want to do, I think he can really help AEW. And at the end of the day, why would you be mad or complain about that? Especially, depending on whether you're an AEW fan or, and if you're not an AEW fan, why do you care? But obviously they care way too much.
Well, I think most complaints came from Jeff Jarrett, but again, it's nice.
Well, Jeff, we just fatigued the you, man.
Yeah, do Impact kickoffs if you want.
Yeah, go back to Impact.
The first bout on the pre-show was a 5-minute open challenge with Lena Cross and Megan Bayne taking on Viva Van and Zayda Steel. And Van has still put up more of a fight than most teams that have faced the champions, but he still ended up being beaten with 15 seconds left on the clock. Cross and Bayne took out Christopher Daniels before Tay Mello and Anna Jay came out with weapons to clear the ring. Wow. Gina, I mean, what are your thoughts? Again, Divine Dominion win a squash, and it looks like, Tay J might be getting a title shot soon.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't mad at this. This match was what it was. I mean, I don't think anyone really went into this thinking Divine Dominion were going to take an L here. But I will give it to Zayda Steel and Viva Van, or however you pronounce her name, Viva Van. I think that they lasted longer than a couple of the other squash matches that Divine Dominion have been in over the past few weeks. So fair play to them because they lasted much longer. But yeah, the match was what it was. It showcased how dominant Divine Dominion is, and we were able to welcome back a veteran tag team that have been quite legit in the early days of AEW, which is Ty J. Ty J. That's their name together. Sorry,
that's their names together. Yeah.
But either way,
it confused me to begin with. I was trying to work it out.
Exactly. But it was nice to see them come back in their tag capacity. As my sister said earlier, there's not really there's no clear line on who is in the singles women's division and who is a legit tag team. Divine Dominion seem to be the main legit tag team that's out there, aside from, Sky Blue and the other two. I can't remember their name. Not the House of Darkness. I can't remember their trio's name, but
Sisters of Sin or something like that.
Triangle of Madness.
Triangle of Madness. There you go.
Aside from that, like we just need a distinct line of women tag teams who are going to be a problem for Divine Dominion. And in my opinion, it was nice to see these two come back with all the bangers we've seen them be in before. This could be something that shows that Divine Dominion are going to be stretched across a longer of a 5-minute match.
Yeah. What would you give out of 5 to start us off?
I wasn't mad at this match. It was what it was. I didn't think Zayda Steel and Viva Van were going to get the win, nor did I think they were going to last as long. But because they did go for a bit longer, I gave it a 3. It was a good match.
Jaxie?
Yeah, I gave this a 3 as well. I think the one thing I did point out is exactly what my sister said. I thought this match, like they lasted until 15 seconds. And they actually did put up a really good fight. They really tried their best. So I can't fault the wrestling.
And Monty?
Yeah, same here. What happened?
Oh, no, I don't know if Jack scored out of 5. I didn't write it down. I guess a 3.
It was a 3.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry, I should listen.
So like I was, to be fair, I had predicted that they would last, mostly because I just wanted. I think they got destroyed by them like twice before this at least. So I'm just like, something unique gotta happen here, right? But then of course Tajay comes back, so we do get something out of this. But again, like you said, they fought hard. They almost survived, and hopefully now since we have a team with a namesake challenging Divine Dominion, we can actually get. We can actually head somewhere now. Like maybe we probably won't get a tag team storyline, but at least some competitive matches or something. So, hopefully we can flesh out the tag division more though as we keep going because one credible team at a time, just ain't gonna excite nobody.
Yeah, without a doubt. What would you give out of 5?
3 1/4.
3 and a quarter. Right, predictions. Well, we've got the WNR Prediction League, haven't we? Let's not forget about this. 2026. So this is before, this is after Backlash and before Double or Nothing. So at the moment, James and Jaxie are on 1, and Monty Gina are on 2 for AEW. Bonus point. Jaxie is on 7, Gina's on 9, Monty's on 11, and I am on 12. And as I said, or as you said, Monty, you did say Team Viva Van will last 5 minutes. So unfortunately, I can't give you that. But James, Gina, and Jaxie all went divine. So Monty on 0, the rest
I
on 1.
said
I know
they
it's
was gonna
tough.
win.
I know
I
you.
said they're
Well,
gonna win. You're literally cutting off half of my prediction. I
look,
said they would last 5 minutes, but Divine Dominion will win.
but they
So
didn't.
give me
You know,
my point.
no, I'm not going to give you the point there, but I will give you something later on. All right. Because again, as we said, I've got to be very tough with predictions. So don't worry, I got you. Up next, Claudio, Willie Uta, and Daniel Garcia took on Hook, Anthony Bowens, and Shibata in the next matchup. They didn't waste time and went right into working a fast-paced bout. The match saw all 6 men get some time, but Shibata felt like he spent more time in the ring than anyone. The Death Riders picked up the win when Claudio pinned Bowens. Jaxie, what were your thoughts on this? I mean, seriously, what are the point of the ops, you know?
Yeah, I think that is the best question because I don't really I don't feel nothing for this group. It's not that I think that they're bad because I think that when they first started off, they were actually quite a strong sort of opposition team. That's why they're called the Ops. But I don't know. I don't take them as seriously as like what they when they first originally formed, and I'm kind of not too sure where Tony is going with this group or what the vision is for them. But it just like I don't know. There's just a disconnect now with the group. So it was okay. The match itself, like I think that the both teams actually did like a decent amount of wrestling. It was entertaining. I think it's the type of match that you should want on like a kickoff show, you know. But yeah, it was just there and it just did what it needed to do. I didn't think it was bad. I gave it a 3.
Give it a 3, yeah. I mean, this just again, I always lose on kickoffs. I understand, but this Monty, this was the first time Anthony Bowens did team buddy ops. So I thought to myself, surely Death Riders with like Yuta and Garcia, they can't do it. But no, Death Riders are strong in Tony's mind.
Yeah. I don't know why you value Anthony Bowens at this point. I guess not just playing, but no. Again, I it actually makes sense to me because like again with the ops, I wouldn't. You would expect it, especially when you got Wheeler there, because Wheeler usually kind of takes these L's, but for the Death Riders. But I'm not really that shocked. I mean, like you mentioned, the Death Riders are popular, and sometimes it's just sometimes I think on the pre-show it's just go with what's going to keep people, excited and happy. It's not necessarily about who needs it the most, because I do think the ops obviously needed this the most. And I don't know, maybe when they lost Will Hobbs, I don't know exactly what the ops I don't know what the direction of the ops are other than being being backup for Joe. You know what I mean? And even Hook being prominent or seeming like he was going to get a push based off the ops have kind of faded away. So I'm not sure exactly what that means for what the ops are supposed to be and what they will be going forward. But yeah, I mean, to me, going with the Death Riders made sense mostly just based off the fact that I thought it would keep the people happy starting off the show. So yeah, that it makes sense, but I can understand if I understand if you're from a different view or if you look at the ops a certain way, you're wondering like what are like you said, what's their purpose? But yeah, I guess we'll see if they actually have one going forward or they just gonna be there to lose.
Which go out of 5?
I'll give it a 3.
3. Gina, what would you score it? And any thoughts?
I kind of just share the same thoughts really as Monty. I mean, I like Joe. I like Shibata. I thought I liked Hook. And I just don't really care for Anthony Bowens, and I just didn't feel the chemistry between them enough to care about them as a group, as a faction, you know. My only interest in this match was more about the Death Riders, and again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier of the blurring lines of the Death Riders being heels or faces. You know, I was going into this match wanting the Death Riders to win, like they were the faces here. So yeah, it I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it because I enjoyed watching the Death Riders just show why they're a formidable faction, really, and show the ops that they need to go back to training school and work together as a team, to try and maybe get some wins under their belt. They definitely needed this win, but I am kind of more glad the Death Riders got the win. So yeah, I'll give it a 3 as well.
You were 3. Yeah, so predictions, I went ops, rest went for Death Riders. So James Monty on 1, Jackson Jr. on 2. Mick Foley talks about Owen, and he had a whole chapter about him in his first book, actually, so go and check that out. The third bout in the pre-show was a huge 10-man tag team match. Big Boom, AJ, QT Marshall, Orange Cassidy, Roger Strong, and Mark Briscoe face Shane Taylor, Lee Moriarty, Sean Dean, Carly Bravo, and Anthony Agogo. Yes, he's still employed as well. Triple Powerbomb led to AJ getting a pin for his team. Eddie Kingston and LT showed up to prevent a post-match attack. I mean, Monty, what are your thoughts of this? I mean, the coconut drink was there, you know? And how the fuck wasn't this the first match? That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I don't have thoughts on this. I really don't. I guess I can just reiterate what I said about we're trying to keep the people happy. Whoever's still happy about this or still care about it. Somebody got dirt on Tony Khan, or somebody is telling him that this is what we need to see every big pay-per-view. We need to see this type of shit. So, I mean, I'm always shocked when Anthony Gogo still pops up. I remember he had a match with Cody Rhodes, and I'm nice to see. I guess again, what did I say about Mick Foley? Nice to see when somebody pops up and you see AEW still paying them. So that was okay. But other than that,
What would you
yeah,
score it?
I got nothing for you, man. I'm never really interested in this, so it's like a 2. Whatever I can do to try to get Tony to stop putting it on the show. So I would give it a lower rating every time.
Gina?
Yeah, I have no comment or interest in this match whatsoever. As Monty said, I don't know who they're trying to please by constantly putting these guys in pay-per-view matches, but I don't want to see it because I don't really care. I'm so sorry, but I don't. So a 2, and they're lucky they got that as well.
Jack, what would you score it?
Yeah, I have to agree. This right. First of all, what is it that like this doom and gloom guy has done for Tony, and why the fuck is he still getting like these matches like every now and again? Like, what the fuck has he done to like deserve that? It's just like really these matches are such novelty matches. Also, I really find it very disturbing how like his children like come out and they're just like they're just creepy towards Harley. Like, was ever anyone else not creeped out with the way that that young one was like looking at Harley Cameron at one point? It was just like, we don't need that. Anyway, too.
Don't have a pop at the Riz because we might have complaints.
Yeah, allegedly that's his gimmick that he's supposed to be alluring. So obviously it's not working on you.
No, I'm sorry, but you're a child. Like, we all want to talk about like um how much exposing that we do and stuff, but we've got to stop like acting like it's okay for like even like a young boy of this age to be just openly ogling like a grown ass woman like that on TV, even if it is for novelty effect or not. It's just like it just gives across the wrong sort of vibe, in my opinion. I found it creepy just to look at that. Like, even if that is his stick, it's a creepy one.
It was one of them things that was funny one time, and it just they ran it to the ground.
Monty, I assure you, that sort of shtick is not funny.
No, I mean
Not
the
at all.
meme. I mean, like the reason why
No,
he got
I get you.
popular
I get
went
it.
viral.
I get
It
you.
was funny
What
one
I'm
night.
trying to say is, whoever is in charge, like backstage, needs to stop Like allowing
Oh
this,
yeah,
even
for
if you
sure.
want doom and gloom there, fine. But like, I don't think his children need to come out. They've got absolutely nothing to do with the show. I get that he's clearly got some sort of like business where they're heavily involved in it, but keep them with that. It's just like, I don't know. I just don't need this, and I just think it's bullshit, and it takes up time when we could have probably had another like random match that actually was full of AEW employees, actual employees that just sit in catering. Like that could have gone to anyone else.
And to be fair, we have talked about this longer than I thought we were going to. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
okay, let's move on
that's
from it.
well, we'll move on. We'll move on. Predictions all went boom. So, boys 2, girls 3. MJF interrupted Mick Foley. He called him a failure. Mick Foley mentioned Dwayne, so The Rock was booed in AEW. Foley says losing quick is a disgrace. Hey, easy, Mick. You know, he calls Darby Allin a younger, better him. MJF low blow Mick, but Darby made the save. Mick told Darby to be a legend. Again, Monty, I was surprised it happened so quickly after Foley's debut, him getting kicked in the bollocks. But I thought this was great. But how many dads has Darby Allin got as well? You know, now Mick Foley, he's got Sting.
Well, I mean, besides the paint on the face, I'm gonna be honest with you, Mick Foley make a little bit more sense based off wrestling style. Like, I know, I don't know, people may not remember this, but I mean, like Sting is literally a golden boy type of wrestler. Like, he's way more closely related. If you know the old Sting before he became crowed out, and darker. Like, he was way more closer to Cody Rhodes than he ever was to Darby Allin. But the bond, and they teamed up together, so it makes sense. But the Mick Foley stuff is really spot on when you talk about wrestling style. And the only difference is Mick Foley had the unconventional body type in a different fashion than the way Darby has. Darby is more of the smaller, and Mick didn't look like the bodybuilders of his day. And you kind of make the argument that Darby don't look like the more athletically built wrestlers of his day. So again, it makes a lot of sense psychologically and just wrestling wise. And I thought it was cool. I thought again, Mick is the quintessential underdog. He's the quintessential risk it all, to beat your opponent, and like to become a legend thing. I also think that's something that may have played a factor when we talk about the main event later in some of the decisions that maybe Darby makes. But to be fair to Mick, or to be fair in this situation, Darby makes those decisions anyway. You don't really need Mick to tell him to jump off or something. So yeah. I get it, and it makes perfect sense from that fashion. I'm with you. Like, you would assume when Mick first get there, maybe you don't expect him to get involved so soon. But to be honest, Mick is a little bit of a maniac. I'm sure he begged them to let him do something else. Like, he couldn't just do pre-show commentary or make an entrance. He had to go do something else because Mick isn't gonna half-ass anything.
That's true. No, it was good to see, and again, it made the 0 hour feel a bit more worthwhile. I know we get the matches, but with that little added thing, it was like, okay, right, that was cool. As we move on to the main card, and the first bout was an I Quit match for the men's tag team titles. Only in AEW can we start with an I Quit match. Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler put the belts on the line against Christian Cage and Adam Copeland. Belts, barbed wire, chairs, and ladders are brought into the action, but neither team wanted to quit. When Stokely got involved, Beth Phoenix came out to even the odds. FTR attacked her, but when they tried to put her through a burning table, she pulled Stoke into the path, so he crashed through it instead. Beth found Copeland's Spike Club, and he made Dax say he quit to win the match and the tag team titles. This might not have been pretty, but it was pretty fun. Gina, what were your thoughts?
I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was really good, just to even see some of the shenanigans that happened. I think with it being an I Quit match, it just made it feel a lot more, I don't know, like you said, there was more at stake with Christian and Cope possibly not being able to tag together after this as well. So it definitely felt like a high stakes match, and it was a really great way to start off the event as well. It was just straight from the beginning, and it didn't. I will admit that it didn't feel too much like the first match because of the I Quit, stigma being on there, but I still enjoyed it. It was a great match. And yeah, I liked that Beth got involved as well, to get her payback for what happened to her. And it's kind of, I feel sorry for Stokely, but it's also, you deserved it, Stoke. So Yeah, he's always taking the bumps, and I love that. It's kind of like, paying that fan service back. And I love FTR's heels because they're great at, being comedic at the same time. So yeah, it was definitely a good opening of a match. I enjoyed it. And I gave it a 4.4 and a quarter.
Yeah, no, like you said, to see Stokely, I thought, why is he, such a padded jacket? But that would, going through a burning table. Yes, I suppose that is that is there. Jack, see again, it's a good way to start the show. This has been this tag spot for the last few pay-per-views now for AEW. It looks like Tony's actually found kind of quite a good way to start the shows.
Yeah, I think this was a great opening match. I have just the same sort of comments you all do as well. I think the one thing I will say is fair play to Beth for taking that you know chair, that stainless steel steps bump. Um, she's certainly a trooper. Always comes back to like making the impact and then ends up like just getting beat down herself, So that was a bit of a harsh moment as well, but still it was a good match and I agree. I think this I give it a 4.25. I think it's a good one.
Yeah, without a doubt. Monty, in 2026, Cope and Christian are tag team champions of a major wrestling organization. It is quite a story.
First time in what, 01, 25 years?
It's 25 fucking years, they said, make me feel old. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Which is kind of cool in itself because when they broke up, they really broke up. And they didn't do a lot of gimmick tag team get back together. Out of the three tag teams, I think they returned, they got back together. Of course, I know injury played a factor, but they got back together as a team in a tag division, the least out of them, Team 3D and the Hardy. So it's really kind of cool. It was cool for that moment to watch them do this. But this, I mean, who else would they? I think who probably won't get enough credit because Christian and Cope deserve so much credit. And they achieved something. But like FTR was perfect opponents. They're really good at making their opponents look really damn tough. I think even the added elements, you can argue it was maybe overbooked a little bit, but at the same time, this was a blow off. They wanted to do all of this. They wanted to do everything they could, and they wanted to kind of put a cap on this story in the biggest way possible. I think that's why the stakes were what they were, and of course we were going to get a Belf return because she is kind of vital to this long-standing story. You know, I know time off is kind of why this storyline took so long, so people may forget, but they have been feuding with LTR, Edge, or but even before Copeland got Christian back on his side, he was feuding with FTR, kind of doing something with FTR. So it is good to finally get this little patch over with. But it'd be interesting to see what this take us with this version of Christian and Cope, and how would they kind of, I won't say Edge and Christian is so bad. It's just I'm obviously struggling with it. But anyway, but yeah, like I would be interested to see, with the new crop of tag teams and with the many potential, with the potential future of the tag team division, what does that look like now with Cope and Christian at the helm and being the tag team championships? Are they going to use champions, or are they going to use this to put over young talent? Are we going to just get a bunch of dream tag team matches like with the Young Bucks, et cetera, et cetera? So it'd be really interesting to see what they do going forward from this moment. You know what I mean? But shout out to FTR. I thought this last run with the belts and this heel turn was incredible. I think FTR has done more than enough. I know their contracts are allegedly coming up and they're asking for a pretty penny. If I'm AEW, why not? I think they deserve to be paid just as much, if not more, than the Young Bucks. They've been incredible. Having the Young Bucks and FTR as consistent teams to kind of always be able to turn to keep their tag team division afloat, in my opinion, has been something that has, like I said, kept their tag team division relevant and afloat. And I think it's vital for them. Like at the end of the day, they've had periods where it hasn't felt depth, but they've always had FTR and they've always had some of the Young Bucks, but like FTR especially now, in my opinion, with this last run, has just had some incredible work, and I thought this was a great way to cap that off. And they told a great story here, so yeah, I gave this 4.5.
Yeah, I'm going to give it 4.25. But like you said, Beth injury was kind of what started this feud, and that was more than a year ago. So again,
Yeah.
it's come to an end now. Predictions: we all went Cope and Cage. So boys 3, the girls were on 4. We got the International Championship next. Kazuchika Okada versus Kaneshita Takeshita. The Rainmaker began to control the pace and started to use one foot to cover Takeshita to disrespect him. The challenger got in some offensive now and then, but the champion had the upper hand for quite some time. Don Callis tried to get Okada to finish the match instead of inflicting more damage at one point, and the final few moments were the most exciting. Both men came close to winning a few times, but when it was over, Takeshita pinned Okada to win the international title. But that wasn't it. It looked like the rest of the Callis family might team up on Takeshita. It's when Carl Fletcher made his return. He stood with Takeshita and the family back down. He gave a new champion a hug for laying him out with a clothesline. Wow. I mean, Jaxie, I'm glad he didn't overbook the finish, but again, Okada had lost to Takeshita, and what a match it was.
Oh, this match was excellent. I feel like this is one that we're never going to do justice when it comes to sort of our description of how what took place. But this was just a great showcase. This is exactly what they've been building up towards between Okada and Takeshita, and they both just let loose during this match. There were so many counters. There were so many near falls. It was really hard to look away because you would just miss something. And this match had like a lot of pride and stubbornness written all over it, which just made it incredibly entertaining. And then you had Don on commentary, and he was just absolutely hilarious. Like he should just never change. He is the perfect like asshole commentator who believes he's done no wrong. Like not commentator, manager. I mean, so yeah, this match I really thoroughly enjoyed. You know what? I want to say I was surprised by the the heel turn of Fletcher. I wasn't. I was shocked at the return of Carl Fletcher. So I was, pretty excited to see his return. Didn't think that he would get back here this quickly, this fast. But at the same time, when he was making his way down to the ring, I kind of called it. I was like, he's going to turn on Takeshita. If he's back and he's healthy again, he's going to want gold. And now Takeshita's just won it. So in my mind, just before he turned, I was like, yeah, you're turning on him because Carl's only goal is gold. So looks like we've got our next feud to look forward to.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, Monty like said it was a great match, but again, this being AEW, it's just like, can't you wait to the next Dynamite for Fletcher to turn and just let Takeshita kind of bask in his glory? Is the turnaround so quick to the next pay-per-view?
I think it might be because aren't they doing like a new one that I've never heard of pay-per-view in like a couple weeks? So it might be. I don't know if Fletcher's actually ready to fight. I could be wrong about that, but they could have, like you said, they may have fast-tracked this before he's even ready to fight. But even if they didn't, I don't know. I think this, like, to me, it was always expected. I always kind of figured Fletcher was kind of being manipulative, even if it seemed like you could be turned. Mostly because Fletcher was such a compelling and good heel. I thought that risking to turn him babyface just because him and Takeshita are getting along and it's getting over. I thought that would probably be too premature. I think Fletcher right now and just so far, maybe he is a better babyface somewhere down the line. But so far, Fletcher is just way more compelling and has been so much better as a heel. And I think since you're losing to Kessler from that side, and to be fair, Kessler's kind of been a babyface pretty much just for a while now, but this seems like officially, the Don Callis family are no longer putting up with how honorable and all that he seems to be. But this match was incredible. Honestly, I'm not really that surprised. It's not just because of my history of watching Okada matches and at this point to Kessler. But everybody knows at this point when Okada is locked in and when the story is there, I mean, when he locks in like no other. Like I've made great points of how you can tell when he's kind of going through the motions, but this was a straight up strong style Japanese New Japan. It would be a main event type of like pacing and the way they were hitting each other. So I think this is really really cool. I think obviously you can tell Okada respects Takeshita, but at the same time he looks at Takeshita as nowhere near his level, and he kind of treats him like a young boy. And Takeshita is not really the type of person you can do that to at this stage of his career because he's so so massive and so physical. So I just thought they really played off each other well. I do think AEW kind of now they don't have this excuse that Copeland had of a time off and all of that. Like this story has been I do think part of me, I'm not taking points away, but part of me wasn't as invested in this as maybe as I would have been if they would have pulled the trigger on this a lot sooner. Because I think we all saw this coming a long time ago. But the match itself, and for the 20 minutes that they just went out there and kind of beat the hell out of each other and wrestled their asses off incredibly, I don't know how much better you can get out of this. But I will say that it would have been like we could have got this probably at Dynasty or like the end of the year last year at that match, and it would have been fine. But again, I don't know. I don't understand AEW's pacing all the time, so I just leave it there. That's a minor criticism. I can't criticize the match. I thought they did incredible.
Yeah, and Gina, again, what I was surprised with, especially the commentary, we're talking about this kind of passing of the torch to the next generation. We know how great Okada is. We've heard the stories, and now Takeshita's there to basically take the mantle. And I'm not saying Okada's gonna, retire now, whether it is, but Takeshita is on a different level right now, even with the fan reaction.
Yeah, definitely. There's still so much that Okada can do that's not linked to that belt. He's been linked to that belt most of his time in AEW. So there is so much more he can go off and do storyline wise and different belt wise, and put his focus there. But it's been a great build of his character for him to have this belt. But right now, the way they built up the story, they have showcased for Takeshita to be that new continental intercontinental. Wait, which one? Whichever
Hang
one
on a
it is.
minute. Let me look. Let me look.
I'm always confused.
International Championship.
Thank
There we
you.
go.
Thank you. Yeah, international. Yeah, it's great to see that the torch is kind of being passed across to Takeshita now, and I think that we all felt it was coming. Like the fans were just getting behind Takeshita, even though he was still technically on the heels side, and the story brewing between Okada and Takeshita has been a long standing one. That people have been kind of invested in. So yeah, I think it's a great passing of the torch. It was a great match and definitely one I would recommend to watch on this match card.
Yeah, about that. Even the video package before the match was great. That's how good it was. So, scores out of 5. Jackson, what would you give it?
This was a 5 from me.
5 from you, Monty.
5.
And Gina.
5.
Yeah, I'll give it a 5 as well. Predictions, we all went to Kesha, so the boys won 4, girls won 5. And the first of 3 Owen Hart tournament matches saw Athena take on Mina Shirakawa. And they got right to the action and started throwing strikes. The Forever Champion took control early and brought Mina out of the ring so she could throw her into anything she could find. She started to show signs of frustration when she couldn't put Mina away, but Athena did score the win with a finisher to advance to the semi-finals of the tournament. And Monty, I've just got to ask you, what chance did Mina and Athena have after following those 2 matches? Could have been the best match ever.
Yeah. Again, the women are always kind of, especially on a card like this. And to be fair, this was really good, by the way. Just really solid. But yeah, with the pacing and with the storyline, it don't help that this match didn't have a narrative tied to it. It's just a tournament match. So, like you said, it almost don't matter what you go out there and do. And like when you're following something like the Okada match, not only just from the quality standpoint, but just how invested everyone being, again. But in my opinion, if you want to you can make an argument. This is probably one of the worst match on the main card, and I still think this is a really good match. And like I'm not sure we can talk about it as we keep going about the main card, but we'll see. And I think that's the point that I'm trying to make about how strong this card is. So to be fair to them, after this and like we get even better matches, even not even better, but we get really good matches as we keep going. It's kind of hard to place it. You kind of at some point you're just following a banger no matter what you do. So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that they kind of have to follow 2 bangers in a row, but it's kind of a good problem to have too. But yeah, so again, it does kind of suck from that perspective. And I think honestly, what I would do is to try to, if you're gonna do this, then you need to give the women more to fight for than just a random tournament match mixed in with all these matches that are major blow-offs and creative stipulations, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, I thought this was a really good match. I'm always a fan of seeing. I wish again, I always mention this every time she's actually involved with AEW that we need to see more of Athena. And but again, I thought it wasn't a perfect match, but it was a solid to really good match. But it's gonna go forgotten because we got so much great shit on this one
Yeah.
card.
Yeah, I agree with that. Gina, like I said, it was a good match. And should we get our hopes up with this being Athena's year now, or should we just stop being silly?
I'm not gonna lie. I really hope that it's the start of Athena's year, but do I believe it is? Not really. No. Not gonna lie though, I agree with everything Monty said. I really just love Athena and I love Mina, and I think they had a great match. It just sucks up the timing of the match. Um, because it's hard to follow those two first matches when, like you said, there's no story behind it. But I really do hope that we get to see a lot more of Athena. I saw someone actually post on X like a week before this event or something, saying that they still think that Athena's finishing move is still one of the hardest women's female finishers out there, and I definitely agree. People sell it off really well as well, but her finishing move always looks devastating, and I just feel like she definitely needs a year in AEW where she's at the top doing something. So I really do hope for it, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
Yeah, yeah, the O face was. I'm so old. I remember when it was called the Eclipse. But again, yeah, excellent points. Jaxie, I don't know if you got much to add. Do you want to start with your score out of 5?
Definitely feel like it. Like the name, the Eclipse, sounded better for a finisher. But I'll take Ophis. It is a great finisher. Don't really have much more to add to that. I still enjoyed this match between the two of them, but as you said, I think it could have been built a bit more. But that would require us seeing more Athena on AEW rather than just on Ring of Honor, which I'm gonna try and stay hopeful for. I'm gonna give this a 4.5 because I think that the women did the best that they could do to kind of keep the audience as entertained as the previous match.
Monty, what would you give it?
3 3/4.
Gina?
Yeah, I'll give it a 4.25.
And I gave it 3 3/4 as well. Predictions: who went Athena? So the boys were on 5, girls on 6. Jim Ross joined the commentary. Bless his heart, I will say. Continental Championship: John Moxley versus Kyle O'Reilly. And it felt like the story they were telling was Moxley knew he couldn't out wrestle Kyle, so he was looking for other ways to combat his offense without giving him too much space. When O'Reilly actually kicked the ring post, it took away a big part of his offense, and Moxley laughed at his attempted kick and fell to his knees. He began to focus all of his attacks on Kyle's leg, but O'Reilly eventually found a way to apply the ankle lock he's used to great success, but Mox refused to tap out. After a long struggle, O'Reilly was forced to tap out himself with an ankle lock from Moxley. Both the stables joined him in the ring. Mox and Kyle O'Reilly shook hands as a sign of respect. And again, Gina, I have no idea if they are faces now, because that's a real face thing Moxley did. But even though this match should have happened a little while ago, this was still a great match.
Yeah, again, another great match on this match card. Another one that I would encourage to go see. It's difficult when you have a match on a pay-per-view event that you have watched recently on maybe like a home show or something like that. But when you've got so much stake behind it, like the fact that Kyle O'Reilly has had a couple of wins up on John Moxley, or they've gone to the time limit, it felt like it had to go to a pay-per-view event type match to have that final say on who was the winner between them. It was so good, and it just reminds you how good Kyle O'Reilly is, because I do find he gets overshadowed by everyone in the conglomeration. I'm never going to say that right. But I do feel like he gets overshadowed quite a lot. So for me, I do feel like this was another great showcase for him. But ultimately, I think, again, like you said, it's just blurring the lines on faces right now, because at this point, you do look at Mox like he's a face. You didn't look at Kyle like he was a heel either. It just felt like a really great, respectful match between two faces. And yeah, it was a great match.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Jaxie, it shows as well how kind of important Mox's continental title reign, even though we laugh at the amount of different titles, this is one that has been consistent. And as we talked about earlier, like a pillars of AEW, who is a pillar of the AEW show and the pay-per-view now.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think that Mox has had like a bad match recently at all. So, you can't put it past them. We've seen Cole and Mox, a few times now, and I think that they work well together. Do I think that they needed like this like another match between them? Not necessarily, but I do think it was good. I think their first bout was like probably better, but maybe it's because like, Carl surprisingly won through tap out and stuff that uh made the match feel a lot more peak, I would say, than this match. Not to take away from this match though. I think the caliber of wrestling was great. It just didn't have have the same heightened effect that their first encounter had, in my opinion. But I still think overall this was a good match.
Yeah, I think that's a main critique, talk about this one. I know, again, injury to Cole stopped it. We mentioned with Takeshita and Okada and Cope and Christian with FTR, and it's like sometimes they have gone a little bit longer than maybe they should have done it, even if they can't help that, so to speak. And Monty, I want to mention as well, because I'll get your thoughts on the match, but Jim Ross as well, thinking Moxley just won the championship. We'd heard, he'd said that he'd fell, had a fall before he'd left there, and he didn't realize he only had one match as well. So it's just I understand what Tony Khan's doing, but do you know what? It's just sometimes it's sad to see, especially with the voice of my childhood, and the voice of many in Jim Ross as well.
How the hell I get this depressing ass topic? Uh, yeah. I don't disagree. I do think. Yeah. I think it's like you said. It's like we know what's going on. We get it. It's a nod of the cap, but it does kind of get you know tough to hear at times when you see someone like that who was so good. Kind of not seemingly be able. But it's not even just like with the illnesses and everything else he's had. We know like ever since like losing his wife and all that, just he may not even. I look at it like he may not even really want to even be at home as much. Like he needs work to kind of keep him going in that sense. So I don't know. Either way it goes, it's tough, and I get it, but. I also understand why it's like, hey, it is, JR's JR. Let's still let him get his opportunity and his chance to come out here and, do his job. But yeah, I definitely understand how it's definitely like where it's like, yeah, it's kind of hard to listen to it sometimes. But as far as the match goes, I thought this was incredible. Another incredible match. Obviously, I'm very much biased towards whenever Moxley is out there wrestling, but I think every time him and Kyle O'Reilly have been able to go in there and wrestle, they've done a great job of just like giving you technical wrestling masterpieces. And like I know you, James, you remember like Kyle O'Reilly is somebody who we always knew had it wrestling wise. And I think AEW is so perfect for a guy like him because I remember when they tried to give him a singles run in NXT and he was always there. The matches were always good, but he was unfortunately during in NXT during a time where uh, we were transitioning from his style of wrestling to more of the characters and the 2.0 BS and all of that. And Kyle just didn't really ever really fit trying to do that character work or trying they almost made him a joke immediately even though he can be funny he has a personality. We know he is a shoot technical submission striking wrestler, and I think AEW fits him perfectly. And working with a guy like Moxley who kind of also blends in shooting and MMA but can just be straight up brawling too. They mesh really well together. And I think what I like about it too is just this was so unique how many times do a world champion caliber talent like Moxley, how many like Roman Reigns, how many you guys tell me this, will Roman Reigns ever fight ever have be down and never had like out of 3 matches have not beaten a guy who we don't look at as a world champion caliber talent? Like no, it's not too many. That's the one thing that I really loved about this whole entire feud is that you're looking at Moxley and you're thinking about him as somebody who ran AEW for a period of time and he's still a champion even now, and he could not get over the hump over Kyle O'Reilly. Imagine what that, in my opinion, look at what that can do for you as someone who's a mid card talent like Kyle O'Reilly. And at the end of the day, yeah, you may not be world champion caliber, but you had like 2 or 3 up on, like Moxley couldn't beat you. A world champion could not beat you. Like that is such a cool little angle to give somebody who you don't really look at as world champion material. And like you never know what that could mean for Kyle O'Reilly in the future of AEW. But again, like I said, I wish WWE, I wish other companies would do that more often with their number one guys. Even if we know that they probably won't lose their belt to these guys, like having them be able to be look like they it's other people that's on their level but just not quite there or whatever it is, or just not being able to make it all come together when you need it to, like in this match. Either way it go, I thought this was incredible. Great grudge match, great blow off. And again, like you said, how much, in my opinion, how much more can you ask from a pure wrestling standpoint in this match? I thought this was incredible wrestling.
Now, out of 5, then Gina, what would you give it?
Um, I'll give it a 4.5.
Jax?
4.25.
Monty?
Okay, 5 star.
5 stars. So I'll give it 4.25. Predictions. We went Mox, girls on 7, boys on 6. And the first match in the men's bracket for the Owen Hart tournament featured Samoa Joe taking on Will Ospreay. While Joe is still posing for his entrance, Ospreay hit him with a springboard cutter to get the match started right away. He tried to stay on him, but Joe recovered and took him off his feet with one big shot. The area assassin hit a 450 before attempting an armbar, but the Samoa submission machine countered and took a breather at ringside. Joe had the upper hand a bit more often until Ospreay started building up a head of steam. After avoiding the muscle buster, Ospreay was able to hit the hidden blade for the win to advance in the semi-finals. Jaxie, what were your thoughts on this?
I mean, this match was just brilliant. This is exactly what I expected between Will and Joe. And it just exceeded my expectations. Again, another match that I just don't really feel like any of our commentary are going to do it justice. It was just, right from the very start of the match, like Will Ospreay was not waiting for Joe to feel himself to his music, come out to his entrance, nothing. As soon as he got in, he started off with a cutter straight away, and like that was just it. It was just madness from beginning to end, really. But this just really showed the perseverance of Will Ospreay. Like the determination of having a dream and like just working towards it. And you just can't help but just love watching these two go in the ring. I could have watched them probably for another go for another hour if they had the stamina to do so. They're just both so incredibly talented. This match was just high caliber and just beautiful, right up there with one of the better matches that they've had against each other.
Yeah, this was really, really good. And Monty, we're watching this as well, and a bit like your Mox point, Samoa Joe truly is generational. I know we've got the wrestlers like AJ Styles and Brian Danielson wrestling at certain levels, but Joe to be doing this in 2026 is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's underrated. It's something that I think you I know for me, maybe people take it for granted because we're so used to it from Joe. Because he's always kind of just been solid, always been really, really good. And I agree, his AEW run is something that I don't see people kind of giving enough love to because every time he's been called upon and every time he's been featured, he's looked great. I also think this meant a lot to Osprey. Osprey kind of mentioned it when online or whatever when he talked about having a match with Daniels, AJ in the past, and now getting one with Joe. So he felt like he really wanted to do this. And if you know the history, if you know Christopher Daniels, AJ, and Joe, and that legendary triple threat and just what they did for Impact back in the day. That was just really cool for everybody. But yeah, for Joe to still be this damn good, like you said, AJ is retired. Daniels is basically, I think Daniels is retired from in the ring too. I know he's still kind of managing him around AEW, but yeah, I know Daniels is pretty much done in the ring too. So yeah, it's very interesting, man. When you think about how where Joe is, and I think I've seen quotes of Joe saying that he's closer to the end than he is, but he doesn't wrestle like he doesn't seem like somebody who's getting ready to retire in a couple of years or whenever the timeline may be for Joe, or something. So again, incredible. It's the reason why every time AEW has been in turmoil, they throw the world title back on Joe. He's dependable and he's just great, you know. So uh, I think Joe is just he's gonna no matter where they decide to use him, whether he's back in world title position or if he's just kind of helping guys along or putting over people like this. He's gonna be always be, just very, very good and solid, and he has been that, and he's a straight up legend. But I thought this was great for Osprey too. We got a chance to see a little bit of the Death Riders' influence on Osprey, but at the same time, he was still the aerial assassin. So it'd be interesting to see how much he evolves with the style of the Death Riders, if anything changes. I even think the way his gear look like we're getting ready for like maybe a different version of Will Osprey as time goes on, because I do think those felt like Death Riders colors kind of mixed in with his own style, and a little bit of an ode to AJ, but also that Styles clash. Come on, man. I mean, I know Osprey's gotten big, but it was still impressive to see him kind of muscle up Joe like that and hit that Styles clash. And I thought the ending was great because Joe looked strong. Joe with the double hidden blade and all that, in my opinion, still looked strong in defeat. This is a really good match. This could have been the final if you ask me.
Well, this is the thing as well. Even with this matchup, Joe and Osprey, two guys, feels like I've seen this match loads of times, but it probably only been a handful just because of where these two guys are, if that makes sense, you know. But again, it's really, really good stuff. And Gina, we mentioned Takeshita and his reaction. We obviously know with Mox, but the crowd are ready for Will to claim the crown. You know, this is the story now. You know.
Yeah, you can definitely hear the crowd are just ready for Will to be on top of AEW now and to be carrying the division and be the face of it. So the pop was just amazing. One thing I do want to quickly call back to though is comparing this to, not the caliber of the match, but just comparing it to the other tournament match, which was on the female side. And I will say that more hype was into this, maybe because Will and Joe are, bigger stars, if you want to say it like that, than Mina and Athena. But Joe and Will, they kind of got involved with each other during some of the dynamites, or at least, said some things on camera to each other on one of the collisions or dynamites. And I think like had they done that a little bit more as well, then maybe there would have been more of an interest and a hype for the ladies match. But it's things like this to keep an eye on. You're having two of the same sort of matches run alongside each other, but there's a difference in how each match feels in terms of importance. So that's just one thing to just point out there, but not shading anything from the match. As both Monty and my sister said, the match was just amazing. Such a high caliber of a match, one of the best. And like Monty said, this felt like it could have been the final of the Owen Hart Cup tournament, not like the quarterfinal or whichever one this is, like one of the starting matches. This felt like it was actually at the end. So the fact that you've got that sort of caliber of a match shows you that you should get a great rest of your tournament.
Yeah, without a doubt. Scores out of 5. Then Jax, what would you give it?
This was a 5.
Monty,
Yeah, I give 4.5.
Gina.
Yeah, I gave it a 5. Also, shout out to Joe because I'm glad that he, even with the great Will Ospreay, he still did the walk off move.
Yeah.
He still did his walk off. Sorry, Will, but
Ah,
everyone's going to succumb to that.
that's the thing I love about Joe. He just doesn't change, does he? You know, it doesn't matter who the opponent is. Yeah, I'm going to give this 4 3/4 predictions. We want Will. The boys are 7, girls are on 8. And then we got the third and final Owen Hart tournament match of the night. and it had Bandido taking on Swerve Strickland. There was a lot of build-up that made it feel a lot more personal, as you just mentioned, Gene, as well, with Swerve attacking Bandido in Ring of Honor and stuff like that. It's definitely something they will have to look at. Swerve started taking Bandido apart piece by piece. He slowed the pace down and tried to keep the high flyer grounded. Bandido looked like he had the match won with a 21 plex, but his injured neck was unable to hold the bridge. When he went for it again, Swerve countered it with a vertebreaker for hitting the house call for the win. Monty, again, as we said, another great matchup.
Yeah. Again, it's like getting swamped with good matches, man. Like I don't know how people watch this. I mean, it's just too much good wrestling, at one time. I can't handle it. But again, I thought this was good. Yeah, again, the standing house call. I mean, the 21 plicks. Bandito, the like you said, the vertebrae reversal. I mean, they just were being so creative, and they just, again, to be fair, like you could look at this and be like, oh well, we figured who would probably win this, but they still did a really good job, in my opinion, of just kind of like again doing stuff that you don't expect, and just again, I just think I just think that it's kind of crazy when you think about the fact that outside of those sparing attacks, that Swerve hadn't even really been on television. You know what I mean? And he could just come in out of nowhere and get in there with Bandito and do stuff like this. So I'm interested to see what happens with Swerve, because I can definitely think of some very interesting futures for him going forward, and I think he can be. And I'd be interested to see how this tournament end up. We might just end up with him and Will in the end, but if that is the case or whatever, it'll be interesting to see. Because I know that'll be another great fight. But again, Swerve is on top of his game. Always have been. I thought Bandito played off him perfectly. It's unfortunate that Bandito kind of had to lose this, because I do think uh, it's one of those times AEW books things with like great wrestlers the way they do all the time, to the point to where sometimes you're like, damn, I wish this guy didn't have to lose. It's kind of like with Okada. Like you almost wish Okada didn't have to lose his match to Kessler, because we in these situations. But or Joe. But yeah, man, I think Swerve again coming out the victory makes sense, and I just think the quality we got here for like a 15-minute match, for something that had a build but still wasn't a main title match, just a tournament match. And we still got some of just again some of the most creative and fun and just fresh feeling wrestling that you can get from a one-on-one encounter. This didn't have any crazy stipulation. They just went out there and worked great. Like I don't know again, we just spoiled in AEW when stuff like this. When the card breaks out like this, we are spoiled.
Yeah, like you said, the house call spot and the poison runner off the apron were just fucking nuts. But Gina, does Bandito have that Ring of Honor curse of not getting any further? Because I'm pretty sure he's a Ring of Honor chat. He might not be, but he's still associated. And it's like, come on now, surely it's time to have a little run in AEW.
Yeah, it does feel kind of half-assed in some ways when you're sort of putting him on a pedestal and Ring of Honor, but then in AEW, he kind of always seems to not quite get there, at least in the more important matches that would make a difference for him. I think we've all seen how popular Bandito is. The crowd always goes crazy for him. They love seeing him and seeing the moves that he does, but he just never seems to be able to get that main big win that he always needs. And it's like, when is it going to be Bandito's time? Does he need to shed the Ring of Honor side to fully commit to AEW? But I don't even know if that would even help at this point. So either way, Monty gave this a really great review. It was another good match after another good match. So there wasn't really much that I don't think these two could have done that wouldn't have impressed.
Yeah, exactly. And Jaxie, again, as Monty did mention, Swerve versus Osprey for the final Forbidden Door is going to be. I mean, if these two matches were great, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I don't really have much more to add. I have to agree with you on that one. Again, you could probably just give them time to cook. Like I feel like Bandito and Athena are going through the same sort of like Ring of Honor curse at the moment, that they're, peak within the Ring of Honor division, but hardly seen on AEW. So if that's the case, like you really should be having these two really doing much more on AEW if you want to keep building them as wrestlers and their status as well. So we'll see what the future holds for them. But certainly this match, you know, even with Swerve coming out as the winner, this match went hard between both of them. And I think, you know, my sister said it right. The crowd were heightened for Bandito. So maybe we'll see more coming from him soon. This match was excellent though.
Yeah, without a doubt. Right. So out of 5, then Monty, what would you give it?
4.5.
4.5. Gina,
Same 4.5.
Jax,
Same 4.5.
and I'll give it a 4.5 as well. Right. Okay. Come on. There's always a lull in AEW pay-per-views. We're gonna get through it. Predictions. We went Swerves. The girls on 9, boys on 8. We've got the AEW Women's Championship next, which was Tekla versus Shida versus Statlander versus Jamie Hayter. And all 3 challengers teamed up to take out Tekla right away, but it didn't take long before Hayter and Stat started fighting. Shida and Statlander worked together, but Hayter and Tekla managed to stay in the fight. Tekla did retain the title with a stomp to Statlander to still be champion. Gina, I mean, what are your thoughts on this? I wonder if Tekla kisses her mother with that mouth. Do you know what I mean? It's just disgusting, Tekla. Come on.
I mean, we'll never know. Maybe Tekla learned it from her mom, but no. Do you know what? I really would like to say like this match was good. It was good. In my opinion, it wasn't actually centered around the woman's champion, though. I feel like more of the story had more been showcased around Shida and Statlander's frail relationship, or the fracture in their relationship that we've been seeing bleeding out over the past few weeks, you know. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed this match, but after I had watched the match, I realized that I feel like that it was more centered around Chris and Shida rather than Thekla herself. And with just Thekla being involved as she's the women's champ, and Jamie to add another, you know, lady up in there. But I think this is where we like to point out how not much thought or detail has really been put into the depth of building the storylines for the women's matches for the pay-per-view events. I know they've been having sort of, you know, running sort of back and forth with Tekla's group and Jamie Hayter and Alex Windsor, but no offense, like you two should just be focusing on Divine Dominion and not really be like, if you guys are trying to go for the tag belts, why are you also in the main? I don't like the crossing over of this of that in any platform as it is. I just think it's silly. So it's just, yeah, for me, it was hard to kind of take away from this match to say like, oh, Thekla was amazing in it and deserved to retain her world title, when I feel like the main story was more behind Shida screwing over Chris, thus then helping Thekla to get the win, you know? So it was a great match, and I think they all put a good amount of effort into it. And I liked Jamie Hayter and Chris having a bit of a standoff with each other because they seemed very evenly matched. But again, I took more from the other women wrestlers in this match other than Thekla being the main champ. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I mean, Shida's kendo stick shot on Stat was sick as well. But like you said, the focus was more on that than it was the champion. And Jax, again, it's a shame because the other 3 have been champion, you know, and it felt maybe the crowd would be more into it. But again, it's like AEW have conditioned the fans to be like, oh, take a little break now because we've still got a couple of matches left, you know?
Yeah, I agree. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because I think that this match was good, but it was, as you say, I don't really feel like the main concern was about like the women's champion. It was behind the, you know, what was going on with Shida and Stat. So for me, it was just kind of more telling that they hadn't done enough build up with Thakla between other opponents to really kind of make people feel um uh you know, good with this. So I just feel like it's not that Thekla's booking is bad, but they're not doing enough like sort of creative work with her or promo work for us to like feel like she was like the main pull in this fatal 4-way, because she wasn't. So I think that there was like a bit of a disconnect when it comes to that. But I don't think it took away from the matches. the match itself, I thought it was really good. I thought all four women looked great in it. And really just kind of showcased, their previous experiences. But this really was about Sheeta and Stat, to be honest. And I kind of don't really understand why this fatal four way was a fatal four way rather than just focusing on building a feud between, just one other person and Thekla. And then
Yeah.
you could have just built like this whole Stat and Sheeta thing separately. I think that would have gone across better. But what do I know?
Yeah, yeah, I always say that. No, but I think you're right there. And Monty, it does feel like sometimes we're waiting for Mercedes Moné or Tony Storm to return to kind of get a singles match that matters on pay per view or something that the crowd cares for. Because again, it's not a shot at Tekla; it's just the presentation and booking over the past month or so.
I think it's kind of like what we mentioned. I mean, she already beat Jamie. She's kind of like running out of credible people to put her in there with. I mean, she's done what she needed to do. She's established herself. She's gotten herself over, in my opinion. Like you said, it'll be more interesting if you had that opposite effect or someone else there, even if Willow don't get hurt. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, I think I get what you're saying, but I think that's the problem. I think what you're saying is like the issue. Like you may be right that it feels that way, but that is an issue. We shouldn't be waiting on, we shouldn't be waiting on it to turn back into Tony Storm land, and we shouldn't be betting on just getting Mercedes back, and then we just put the camera and put the storyline focus right back on them. Then we're right back where we've been the last few years. At some point, you're gonna have to give these other girls a chance to get that focus and get and demand that attention and actually get storylines and not just put talented women in the match and just hope that the fans care when like we talked about earlier, all the men gets the brawl, all the men get the extra attention and extra promo work. And meanwhile, most of the time the women gets maybe a promo here, maybe a backstage promo there, setting up a match on Collision, a match here, and then a match at the pay-per-view, and then it ends up being this. I mean, we got a world title women's match getting less than 15 minutes, but the next match, both of the next two matches are finna be 25 or 25 plus minute matches. You know what I mean? So again, a lot of that has to do with focus. A lot of that has to do with booking. I think unfortunately Jamie Hayter probably didn't even need to be in this match. You probably could have told the same story between Hikaru Shida and Chris Statlander, and it probably would even hit harder because both of them are vying for the championship in a triple threat setting against Tekla, and you could have got that same finish, and it probably would have been. You wouldn't have. Nothing would have changed whether if Jamie was there or not. Even though I do think the parts in the match she was there was interesting, and I do think they all worked well. Don't get me wrong; I'm not criticizing any of the women. I'm just saying the booking of the situation and the booking of the match just for some reason for an AEW World Title match on a big card, it just like you said, it felt like the filler of the show, and we should never be in a situation where the AEW World Title feels like filler. And so
Yeah.
they have to work on it. They have to build if they're going to use Athena, they have to build Athena up to feel like we're watching a Tony Storm match and a Mercedes match. Like we have to continue to work Thekla or give Thekla baby faces to work with that make these matches feel like more than just a solid match to get us to the next big match.
Yeah. And the thing with Hater, to quickly, Hater and Windsor, we just feel like we're waiting for All In for them to win the tag titles. Do you know what I mean? So again, it's like we can
Yeah.
kind of see where it's going, but at the moment we're in a holding pattern, which isn't great. Gina, what would you give out of 5?
Um, I'll give it a 4. That's me being nice.
Mm-hmm. Jaxie?
Yeah, same 4 for me.
Monty?
3 3/4.
I'm going to give it 3.5 predictions. We all went Tekla, so girls on 10, boys on 9. And this year's Stadium Stampede match featured 14 competitors to make it the biggest bout on the card. We had Chris Jericho, Shelton Benjamin, Bobby Lashley, Jack Perry, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks taking on Ricochet, Khan, Lioa, Ellie Delo, Davis, Connors, and Finley. As soon as ref called for the bell, all 14 men started brawling. I mean, this was long, but the entrances were great. The faces wore suits, and it may be a mess sometimes, but this is what AEW is all about. We see Leo Rush appear, also Luchasaurus. It was all sorts of nonsense. I can't Do you know what I mean? Whatever I say, just watch this. Yes, it was long, but it was crazy. You know, in the end, Jericho managed to get the victory for his team, but there's not really much else I can add because Jackson, this is what AEW is all about. You know, for me.
Yeah, this is your level of like sort of goofy level fun that works so well. This was highly entertaining. I really liked the shot they did at one point. I think it was like sort of like four camera angles at one time. Now I'm glad that they didn't stick to that because don't think I would have been able to have paid attention at all if they stuck at that sort of four camera section. But I do think it was quite cool just to like do a little bit of a snippet away to see like you could just look in each section to like try and see what each of them were getting up to. But this was all kinds of silliness, but in a good way. This kept you entertained. You kind of didn't want to look away because there was just so much happening that you wanted to make sure that you could just see everything that you could. So you'd probably have to watch it a couple times in order to like really see everything that took place in this match. But it was just entertaining as hell. And yeah, I just enjoyed it a lot. I've got no complaints about this match at all. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, Monty. Innit? If anybody wants to know what AEW is about, just watch like a stadium stampede. You know.
Yeah, this is another one of the matches, kind of like I mentioned earlier, like that with the fairway card is like, just something that's uniquely AEW. Like at the end of the day, at this current stage, I know you can say they maybe barring for some of what ECW would do, but even this is completely different to me than that. It's like I think this is like one of those things that's very, very unique and very, very AEW. Like you mentioned, like you want to explain AEW, you definitely can use these type of matches. It was just good fun. It was so fun that I think the wrestlers were having fun. Like at that point, like I know they were, giving portraying that they're fighting each other and they're against each other, but I know putting some of this shit together and working through the spots, I know that they were getting a kick out of just, you know, doing some of this and putting all this stuff together. And at the end of the day, it just felt it was good fun for everybody. I don't see how you can really look at this match and just not be like, wow, or just having fun. At times, you can hear the commentators laughing at different spots and stuff like that. I mean, other than Jungle Boy trying to literally murder Mark Davis, I don't think anything like he literally tried to run him over with a bus. We just glossed over that because I guess Mark is a bad guy, but I'm just saying he literally, literally just tried
Yeah,
to kill
fuck
him.
him.
Ah, who cares? He's a bad guy. Of course,
He
you
had a
run him
good
over.
month. You know what I mean? Like,
Right, right. New champion. I don't care. But yeah, so I got a good kick out of it. It was a really good time. Was it a clusterfuck? Yes, but all of these matches are clusterfucks, and as long as you have fun with that clusterfuck, you ain't supposed to complain about it. So I thought it was a very, very fun clusterfuck.
yeah, without a doubt. And Gina, like I said, it's always fun to see Shelton Benjamin defying apparently what his age is to just kind of fly and just to see everybody. Like I said, Monty said, everybody just had fun in this, didn't they?
Yeah, it was definitely just one of those fun matches, and Shelton just looked great as he usually does. I can't get over how great Shelton Benjamin still looks. He literally looks how he was in wrestling 20 years ago. It's insane. But the whole match was fun. I think my favorite parts had to do with like the tennis balls being chucked at Ricochet. That was just funny. I do like a bit of goofy wrestling, and I think this helped break up a bit of a serious show in a way. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
Right. So scores then, Jaxie, what would you give it?
You know what? This was highly entertaining, so I actually gave this a 5.
Yeah, 5. Monty
4 3/4.
and Gina.
Yeah, 4 3/4 I'll do as well.
I'll give it 4.5. Predictions: we went Team Jericho to the girls on 11, boys on 10. As we get to the main event between Darby Allin and MJF, which wasn't just for the AEW World Championship. MJF also put his hair on the line in order to get Darby to agree a rematch. The introductions took longer than usual, but it helped create some anticipation for when the match started. Darby used a side headlock takeover a few times, but MJF kept kicking out. Darby sent him out of the ring and went for a suicide dive, but MJF sent him crashing to the floor. Well, I'd say a rough landing probably doesn't do it justice. Looked like he was thrown out of a moving auto vehicle. From that point, the former champion was in control for a long time. The missed coffin drop on the apron looked painful as well. MJF pulled a cameraman into the path of a suicide dive. I mean, the way it was shot looked cool, but Darby was then bleeding in the back of his head after leaping off the stage onto MJF through a table. But that wasn't the end. In the end, Darby stretched himself too far, and MJF was able to get the pin and regain the world title. After the match, Kevin Knight showed up what looked like an attempt to protect Darby, but he ended up turning heel when he hit a frog splash from the top rope on the downed former champion. I mean, fuck you, Kevin Knight. So thoughts on this? I mean, Monty, what? Jesus Christ. I mean, I got caught up with Darby Allin's story. I think you can tell. But, yeah, I mean, all good things come to an end.
From the moment that man booked Brody King after the Ciampa fight, and then double back and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna fight this guy. Then let's do Pac on the weekend, and let's do Sammy this weekend, and let's do bro." It all looked cool and it's amazing. Great matches every fucking week too. Like I think his run, people will look back and be like, "Damn, Darby run." I don't know how long it actually ended up being. But, oh man, damn, Darby run 60, 40 days, 50 days. I don't know exactly how long, but they're gonna you might, but it don't do any justice to how good his run actually is from a match standpoint and the title defenses and everything he put into his run. But I've been watching wrestling way too long, man. I know, but you can't do it. You can't work that much. You can't do it. You can't give a title match every week and then think you're finna be Roman Reigns 1,000-day run. It's the reason why he was 1,000 days. It was the complete opposite of that. It was the complete opposite. He worked once every few months sometimes. So for real, like I'm serious. So like I'm just saying, yeah, it was cool, but I always knew, especially, and then even with the hair stipulation, I was like, it'll be funny because I can see Max doing some Kurt Angle goofy, put a wig on, heel work after you cut his hair. But the whole entire time I was like, yeah, nah, Max ain't giving up that hair. And like even Mick Foley, like I said, I think some of the stuff about be a legend and all that type of stuff. You know, in my head when he jumped off that stage, Darby knowing he was already beat the hell down and he barely got to this match. In my head, he heard Mick crazy ass saying, you know, he heard that legend line. He was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. And Darby always do. He don't have a conscience. He's not gonna think twice. He's gonna do it. And like you said, jumping off that and just going through what he did and putting his body through it, he didn't have enough. It was some nasty spots in this match though, man. I actually would have been, like I told you before, James, I would have been happy with either person winning because honestly, they both would have deserved it. Uh, I mean, again, like I just don't know. This is one of the better matches I've seen from like not really from Max. 'Cause I think Max underratedly has had a great year also. But this was really good. And I think even if you wanted Darby to win and you were just sad about this, I don't see how you cannot look at this and be moved from the storytelling and what they kind of did with this match. And say what you want about Max. Max is 3-time AEW world champion. Like you said before, what I think he's at 30 or right at 30 years old. I mean, he's very, very accomplished, man. He's one of the best in AEW easily in their run, and I think his work is speaking for it. And I think again, even as great as Darby was, in my opinion, I think it was a great conclusion to a story for Darby because Darby is the perfect guy to make kind of crash and burn like that in the fashion that he did. Because that's basically who Darby is, man. It's kind of just basically who Darby is, and it was signs in all his matches as they went on. And people say the AW don't do long-term storytelling, but Darby Allin is a great example of it. Because as the matches went on, you could see he wasn't the same. His body was breaking down from this schedule he had kind of picked up, and it paid. It went in MJF's favor, and we got MJF back on top. We'll see for how long though, because everybody wants the world championship. So it's a nice line of people still waiting to get a shot at MJF, and we'll see what happens with Darby after this too. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming Kevin Knight at some point. I'm not really too mad at Kevin Knight because as soon as Kevin Knight won that championship, his whole demeanor kind of changed to me. The way he talked, the way he walked, I was like, oh yeah. He might. I thought he was gonna turn on speedball first, but doing it to Darby, I thought that was a great way to kind of end the pay-per-view and maybe even give Kevin Knight a launching pad into stardom too, in a sense. So, I'm not too mad at it. I thought this was a good piece of business all around for everybody. I thought Darby's story was great. Max, a walk away 3-time champion, and then even Kevin Knight looks way more important. And they've done a really good job, in my opinion, this year of making Kevin Knight feel like a star of the future. Like where Kyle Fletcher was, I feel like Kevin Knight is kind of picking it up and being that young guy who we can see lead the future right now while Fletcher's hurt.
Mm. It really pissed me off when AEW announced a pay-per-view in fucking Canada as well, like literally the day after this, and I was just like, oh well. But again, Gina, as Monty pointed out, it's a great story, and like I said, Darby just couldn't keep up with the pace.
Yeah, I mean, again, we could potentially say, well, Darby, maybe you put yourself through the ringer too much. You wanted to be a fighting champ, which is great, but there's also a downside to that in terms of you just taking constant damage each week and not being maybe at your best performance for your bigger matches. But either way, it was still a great match from Darby. I I didn't really see MJF being happy going bold. So the outcome definitely went the way I thought it was going to go, but there were a lot of, near misses that I generally thought MJF's hair was going to go. And I was kind of worried because I don't think he'll look great as a bald guy. But yeah, it's hard to say because I don't want to say that it was going to be impossible for Darby to beat MJF when Darby has beaten the likes of Takeshita and Brody King. If you can beat those two, then you think like MJF would more be a walk in the park for him. But clearly, it didn't help for him this time, and maybe that is a case of him having too many matches in between and running himself thin.
And the other thing as well, I mean, Jaxie, to be positive about it, what a great story the main event scene has been this year. As we're going to see, we already know Will Ospreay, or we think, well, if I fucking go for him, he won't win. But do you know what I mean? Like, we think Ospreay's going to, face Kenny Omega, maybe all in for the title. So we've got Kenny coming back to get revenge on MJF. Darby's had his run this year. You still got people like Swerve and Andrade. It's not even been mentioned, It has been the best story from AEW by far, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the main event scene really has just, Darby's just taken this current title run of his and just really said he's going to make an impact, and I think that is exactly what he's done here. They've always been great at storytelling when they're dedicated. I say with AEW, and the stark contrast between that and the women's division, like, is really evidently told here. Like, excellent build up, all in the meantime between this. It does help when both wrestlers are excellent promoters and workers themselves. But I also feel like the lack of experience that the women have when it comes to their promotional work, talk and everything like that is evident from the amount of time that they get given within like both Dynamite and Collision. So there just needs to be they need to like be a lot more sort of they need to be given a lot more time to be able to hone their skills when it comes to the mic talk. But that being said, this match just was incredible. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think you guys have pointed out, like, most of my main comments about this match in itself. I felt like there was so many excellent near misses. It just really worked for the pacing of this match, and didn't feel like it was a drag, considering the length of time Double or Nothing was, and considering how exhausting just even the Stadium Stampede match was on itself.
Yeah. Well, I should say, yeah, that's another thing. A 3-hour show with an hour kickoff is perfectly acceptable. Like I said, it's something, again, I understand Tony wants to do the 4 hours, but even when I heard people were, struggling to get home with the trains being shut, and we've had it, again at London coming out, luckily we weren't too late, but again, if it's past midnight or something like that, then it's crazy.
Definitely, I agree.
But then again, I'm only annoyed because I got it wrong. Out of 5, Monty, what would you give this main event?
4.5.
4.5. Gina?
Same, 4.5.
Jax?
4.5 for me too.
I'll give it a 4.25. Predictions. I went Derby. The rest went MJF. So I will say, obviously, with that, final scores, I'm on 10, Monty's on 11, Gina and Jaxie are on 12. They got perfect scores, but I will give Monty a bonus point because, like I said, you did know the results, but I can't give you the AEW win, all right? But I will give you a bonus point for that. So it means on AEW, I'm last on 1, Monty and Jaxie on 2, Gina's on 3, and the bonus now, Jaxie's on 8, Gina's on 10, James and Monty on 12. Wow. So yeah, well done, Gina and Jaxie, for the win there. And again, bonus points, and it's as tight as it ever has been at the top. Overall, I mean, same problems, you know, I would say when it comes to me. But Gina, I mean, what were your thoughts overall? What's your match of the night, your MVP, and your score out of 10?
I mean, I think the show overall was just great. Each match just really delivered. I I'm not including the pre-show matches sort of within this, and there's no slate to them, but like I didn't really care for those, but I never really do. The main match card though was just great. I think every single match delivered in their own way, shape, or form. I really wish that the women's matches had more kind of story built up to them, because the women's matches just felt like the less hyped matches on this match card. Oh God, uh, I had a couple of fives for match of the night, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think one was the Takeshita Okada match. What were my other fives? Do you remember?
Osprey Joe was your other
Oh,
5.
oh gosh. Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna go with Okada and Takeshita for match of the night, especially because of the Kyle return as well. So I'll go with that as my match of the night. Um, I'm gonna give Will my MVP because he had a great match against Joe. Um, and overall rating, I enjoyed the main show, so excluding the first opening matches that I didn't care for, I still think it was about an 8.
And Jaxie, same question to you.
Okay. I'm gonna go. I think I'll go Will Ospreay's Mojo for match of the night. I'm gonna go for Takeshita for MVP. Um, Overall, I think, yeah, I'm gonna give this an 8 3/4. I thought this was really good.
Wow, farming for you. That's a fucking rocking rate. That is.
Yep.
Yeah, fair play. And Monty, same question to you.
I give it an 8.5. My MVP is I'm gonna give it to Max, 3-time champ. My match of the night is probably Kyle O'Reilly and Moxley. Uh, so yeah, that's just my style of match. Remind me of Zack Sabre Jr. Be nice if he was there to wrestle that way too. But yeah, I agree. I think if you love AEW right now, you probably if you love AEW, then you probably thought this was an excellent show. And if you don't really like AEW, then you're probably just missing out. Like they're really doing some really cool, creative stuff and telling good stories too, which is a criticism a lot of people have for them. And I don't see how you can really criticize them that way these days. I mean, I do think it's not consistent. I agree with y'all about it'd be nice to kind of get that for the ladies too, and get that for everybody up and down the card, Ring of Honor talent, whatever. It'd be nice to get some, more consistency for everyone. But uh, overall, though, I don't know how you get a better main card than this from a quality standpoint, even if everything wasn't perfect. Like, I just think I'm not sure if this is my highest rated show of the year, but honestly, I don't think I've seen a better wrestling show this year. Like, even night two of WrestleMania was great, but in my opinion, I feel like wrestling wise, you can't get much better than this.
No, I will agree there. I mean, I'll give it 8 3/4. Like I said, the main card was excellent, even though it was a bit of a slog trying to watch it through. Match Okada versus Takeshita, and my MVP is Samoa Joe. So that is it. We'll leave it there. We'll catch up with. I have no idea what the next AEW pay-per-view is. I think it might be Forbidden Door at the end of June, but again, they keep chucking in new ones, don't they? So we'll find out. So finally, I mean, Jaxie, what were your thoughts on AEW? You know, I asked you at the start, and now I'm going to ask you at the end. What did you think
Yeah.
of the build-up and Double or Nothing?
You know what? I'll still stand by what I said a bit earlier about it. That like I'm intrigued with the storytelling and what they're doing here. And it does make me a bit more excited to watch their content each week. However, they have to get better at the women's division. I think what this pay-per-view actually managed to sort of solidify for me was how much work we still need to do to actually promote the women's division in the same sort of caliber and the same light as the men's division. That's not to say that the women's matches aren't good or great or at a good caliber of wrestling, but what I'm saying is promotionally and creatively, they're not being booked right or booked correctly for us to really feel invested in the matches on a pay-per-view event compared to the likes of how invested we are in the men's matches. So I think that's the only criticism I have about this pay-per-view, is that it really highlighted their flaw when it comes to the women's division, and they have to work harder on that.
I would agree. But that is it for now. Don't forget, we've got all social media. X at the WNR Podcast. I'm at the WNR Pod James. You can find the entire WNR team on the banner. Jaxie, where can people find and follow you?
On Twitch and X at Jaxie Scarlett.
Monty?
At my Monty Pod on Twitter.
And Gina?
You can find me at The Hurt Business or Purple Pain.
Don't forget to send us an email at the WNR Podcast at gmail.com. And WNR also on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube podcast, where we're celebrating 11 years of the WNR with shorts and a lot more else. I've been playing a lot of games recently. I opened up my PS4 and was going through a lot. So check that out if you like weird games. And also, the podcast is live on YouTube and also on SoundCloud on your phone. Also, Spotify and iTunes, where you can download, subscribe, rate, and review there. And that is it. Our next episode is next week, and it is going to be Clash in Italy. Until then, I'm James Rowlands, and I was joined by the fantastic Jaxie Scarlett. Thanks for joining me, Jax.
It's been fun, and I can't wait for the next one.
Cool. And the mind of Monty.
Adios, Hauser.
And of course, the genius of Gina. Thanks for joining me, G.
Thanks, and I'm going to keep the crown on top from now.
Well, like I said, if I can't win, I hope you do. That is it.
Aww.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and bye.